So hear me out. I have an idea for an amendment to the Constitution.
All right, let's hear it.
All right. So I think that if you are sitting at a red light and you're at the front of the line, right?
Mm. Yeah.
You should be like, it is your job being at the front of the line at the red light to wait until it turns green and go.
Yes.
I think the amendment should be if that person does not go, the people behind them can drag them out of their car and beat them to death.
I don't know what it is either. Like when people are not the first in line, they're really watching it and they want to go. Once they get to the first of the line, it's like they relax. It turns
Oh,
you.
I'm on my
Oh
phone
well.
drinking coffee.
Yeah,
Who
yeah. I'm
cares
not
what
in a
color the
hurry.
light is?
I
Be
know exactly.
zen, y'all. There is this light close to where I work, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen this where so it's a special arrow, right, for turning
Yeah.
left.
Uh-huh.
And the person in front is not paying attention, and they wait all the way until the goddamn light
And then
turns
everyone misses out. Yeah.
yellow, and they go, and everyone else behind them is fucked.
So
That
annoying.
person should be dragged out of their car and beaten with hammers.
Yeah, I don't know, and people don't honk here. Like if you go to a foreign country,
I
people who are not on the who are not first, if it turns green, they start honking, waking them up, to hurry up.
I remember my family took a trip to Mexico, and the guy that took us from the airport to the place we were staying, he honked at everybody, and I was like, man, this guy's aggressive. And then I realized, like, no, that's just the regular
Yeah,
custom of
exactly. Yeah. Cairo's the worst. I mean, you hear it all night too. The honking just doesn't stop. It's insane. Probably Turkey was pretty bad. No, Istanbul is just loud. Not really honking, but just really loud. Cars going everywhere. Chaos.
This is completely sidetracking from the sidetrack already, but I saw a video on YouTube about a billionaire who was getting married, and it took place in Cairo, and he rented out. Wait, the pyramids are in Cairo, right? Well, not inside.
Close. They're in Giza. Yeah, they're in Giza.
Yeah, he rented out the pyramids so they could the whole wedding party, which is like 1,000 people, could go inside, and then he rented out a museum that hadn't opened yet, and like it just was unreal. I mean, of course it looked really cool for the YouTube video, but I'm just thinking like, God, screw everybody else. Like this is our party now.
Who knows how much they charged them to like lock that down? I mean, that's a lot of revenue they're missing out on. Unless he paid them more, then
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, I mean, it was really cool, but
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean,
was it recent?
I'm assuming so. Had to be.
Okay.
But we should. I'm just saying. I feel like if we beat more people with hammers who stop at green lights, it only happened like 2 or 3 times, and then everyone's like, "Oh, damn! I'm at the front of this line. I have to pay attention to what color the light is."
I mean, yeah, it's your responsibility. If you are the first in line, it is your responsibility for to make sure you take off at a reasonable time. Like you don't sit there and just do. Other people are waiting. They could miss out on that. It's just selfish, if you don't care what happens to people behind you.
And I've stopped doing the 2 honk. Like they say, 2 honks is a friendly honk. I've stopped. I just slam on it. I just go. And even I'm not, I might be too aggressive of a driver, but I'll roll down my window, and as we're turning, I've got my finger out the window and I'm screaming at them. I just can't stand people who are so inconsiderate of other people. I just can't stand it.
But road rage is a real thing. I got flicked off by someone. I don't even know what I did. Like like he stopped. I guess I was riding him too close or something, which I'm pretty sure I didn't. But yeah, he just reached out and flicked me off. I was like, okay, what the hell did I do?
I've got one last, in that vein. I was driving to work one morning on the freeway, and it was a pretty empty road. It was really, really, I ended up showing up to work about hour and a half early.
Wow.
And so the freeways were empty, and I'm in the leftmost lane, and there's one, beat up van in the rightmost lane.
Mm-hmm.
And and they're like, I mean, they're not far in front of me. They're very little far in front of me, but they cut across all 4 lanes to cut in front of me. and I honk at them, and they gave me the finger, and I was like, "Fuck me, no, fuck you! What are you trying to? What is this?" I was so mad. I was almost like, this is worth it. I'm gonna slam into their car from the from behind and just beat up whoever the driver is.
Hello?
I mean,
Oh.
thank God I've got a brain, but I mean, it's that kind of.
Shut up for a while. What the hell was that?
There's something about dickheads on the road that always think they're right, regardless. They go, screw everybody else. I'm doing my own thing.
Oh yeah, people get
Don't-
crazy when they're in their cars.
Yeah, I mean they're, and we always forget this. They're giant death metal machines. Cars.
Oh yeah, they're no joke. Yeah. So I got a dash cam just because of that. Because
Very good idea.
I want to get the story straight, and it's easier when there's cameras there. And the thing is, no one incentivizes us to do that. You'd think their insurance companies would incentivize us. Oh, if you have a dash cam, well, here's a discount, but they don't, which is weird because it will save them a lot of money. Because they get sued all the time if something happens.
Just ridiculous. But you know what else is ridiculous? Anomalies. Yes. Anomalies. They're all over the place. And you know what? We're going to uncover them here on episode 83 of the Uncovering Anomalies podcast. That is, I have a need to know, Adam.
What up, everybody?
And I am 2 for 1.
Oh, now I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you go to our feed on whatever platform you're listening to our podcast on, if you go to our feed and you click on a podcast, guess what? You can listen to another podcast. It's fine. It's 2 for 1. Click once,
2 for 1.
Get 2. And it's all free. It's all free, baby.
It's all free. We don't have ads anywhere. We don't put ads on YouTube. We don't put ads on Spotify. So yes, it's definitely free. And as a listener asked us the other day, why are there 2 videos that go up at the same time? So just so that everyone know, Google Podcast is going away, like we mentioned before, or is gone now. So they forced everyone to place the RSS feed or link into YouTube Music, which is basically YouTube. So when we upload a podcast, the audio file is also sent to YouTube, and then we also upload the video. So that's why you see 2. One is the video, and one is just the audio.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so that's why there are 2. I know it can be confusing, but I mean, you can tell one is a video, one is not. So you can just click out if you don't want to listen to the audio and go to the video.
And there's another 2 for 1. 2, yes. You can go listen to the audio, and then click again, and you can listen.
Yes.
You can watch the video.
Exactly.
But today we are talking about a very, very fun subject, the Phoenix Lights. And that's not the basketball team. That is the very cool phenomena that happened in the southern western United States of America.
Yeah, in Arizona. Cool place. I've been in Arizona a lot. It does get hot. I'm sure it's probably 120 degrees now there. But they have lots of stories of lights and UFOs, and Native American culture is very immersed there. It's very respected also by I guess the Americans. Is that what well, I'm saying, like they have integrated into Arizonan culture. So you see their artwork everywhere, their history. There's lots of museums of their history everywhere. So, and as we have uncovered on this show, Native Americans have a history with UFOs and non-human intelligences.
Yeah, I mean, they're very spiritual people. I mean, that's one of the trademarks of their culture, and yeah, I mean, they have this cool connection with, I don't know if you want to call it the veil or the other side or whatever it is, but they're really in touch with that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
It goes along, I guess, being in touch with nature, right? Being in tune with nature, and shamans. I mean, shamans, they communicate with the other realm.
Yeah. I mean, and this is, you know what? Never mind.
Okay.
I was gonna bring up skinwalkers, but that's really not appropriate for this topic.
Oh, I mean, Uh,
Could be,
yeah.
maybe, but I mean, it's a very taboo subject in Native American culture, and I don't want to bring it up because
Okay.
love Native Americans, but they don't like to talk about it.
Okay. Sounds good. So I guess we can go through this article, and then we have a couple videos, and then there is an alternative theory of what it can be, not flares, something else, and then we have UFO news to get to, other news, and some politics as well.
Of course.
All right, so let's get going. So on this is on the site called UFOinsight.com. This is the best article I've seen. Very in depth. They only left out some things, but we'll get to those anyway. So just an overview of what happened, and this was on the evening of 13th of March in 1997. So still not that long ago. It is before 9/11. So we were completely different country back then. But I remember this being a teenager when this happened, being on the news and everything. Um, and just this is a fascinating case. So the states of Arizona and Nevada would play host to one of the most fascinating and widely viewed events of recent history. Other sightings on the same evening were also reported in New Mexico and even south of the border in Sonora, Mexico. The incident is not only one of the most credible, but one which boasts a relative wealth of footage and photographs. It was perhaps one of the first such encounters that played out in the internet age, albeit itself in its relative infancy, and as a result, the encounter not only became nationwide news, but eventually caught the attention of the entire world. Here's some of the pictures here. This is what they think it looked like.
Yeah, it's a very interesting phenomena. The boomerang shape is highly theorized as what it was, and just based on all of the footage and eyewitness testimony, it really seems to be that's exactly what it was. A huge triangle shaped, well, delta shaped UFO.
Yeah, here's some video, original footage of it. It's huge. I mean, this thing's like an aircraft carrier because here's the city down there.
Yeah. So when we were talking about topics to bring up this week, Phoenix, I said, hey, let's cover the Phoenix Lights, but also the other one I brought up was the Hudson Valley sightings up in
Yeah.
upstate New York, and it's very, very similar cases. And
Yeah, those were lots of smaller crafts, if I remember correctly, right?
yeah. But I know in the Hudson Valley sightings, they were, witnesses said it looked like an object that was extremely tall,
Oh,
which is fascinating. And in the same delta shape as these Phoenix Lights.
weird how they turn off and on, and that's
Mhm.
why they came up with the excuse that they're flares.
And what's so cool to me is no one has ever come forward and said, well, no one credible has come forward and said, hey, we did this. It was a prank, boy. Um,
No,
and then plug their YouTube channel or anything like that. I mean, this is just really fascinating stuff that it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense.
especially this craft. It wasn't just here. I mean, people saw it fly on top of them. So
Yeah.
even the flares thing doesn't work, and the government could have done it as a distraction anyway. Like oh shit, there's a huge sighting. Go drop some flares quick.
Yeah, I mean none of the theories that claim to explain this make any sense whatsoever.
Right, and there 20,000 witnesses. It's not one or two or 10. I mean, 20,000 is a huge. It was basically the entire city.
Yeah, and God, it's just floating there menacingly. Obviously, it's turning right now.
Yeah, and
Turn
right,
towards the camera.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they're not dropping. If it was
right.
flares, it'd be dropping and orange. Look at that thing; it is huge.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
you're
that.
right; it's turning.
Yeah, turn. It looks like it either turn towards the camera or away from it.
Yeah, and that's why lights look like they're turning off, but they're not. It's just not in view.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's possibly what's happening. And then this is when supposedly they turn off and they're gone. Oh, here are more of them.
March
March 13th.
13th, 97. Wow.
So how long ago was that? 20 years, 25.
17, right? 17 years ago.
Yes.
plus 4 months or 5 months.
All right, so from Henderson, Nevada to Paulden,
Hey,
Arizona. Yeah, the initial sighting. So the first recorded sighting of the evening in question came from the town of Henderson, Nevada, at around 7:55 p.m., 6:55 Pacific time on Thursday, 13th March 1997. According to the witness, a large V-shaped object with 6 large lights spread evenly along its underside on its leading edge passed over him. The object was approaching from the northwest and was at least the size of a 747 jet as it passed over him and out to the southwest. He watched it for several moments before it disappeared from his view over the horizon. The witness would ultimately submit a well documented and detailed report of the sighting to the National UFO Reporting Center, New Fork. This is perhaps worth noting as it isn't an act of somebody seeking attention or notoriety.
yeah,
Um,
I hate that as UFO sighting explanation where everyone goes, "Oh, people just want to be, they want their 15 minutes of
famous.
fame." Yeah, that's such a stupid argument.
It is dumb. So that was in Henderson, right?
Yep.
Henderson, Nevada is when they first saw it that night. So it was moving between states. So how can it sit there and say it's flares? All they were doing is just trying to explain that video. That's it. Not
Flare
the event
drones, bro.
itself.
Flare drones.
Well, flare drones, yeah, especially in '97.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so what is largely agreed to be the second sighting of the evening occurred 20 minutes later at 8:15 in Paulden, Arizona, who operate an hour ahead of Pacific time or
So
Mountain on Mountain time.
7:15, if you want to put it in perspective.
Yeah. A police officer claimed to leave his house at this time, enter his car, and begin driving north. As he was doing so, he looked out of his window to the west and witnessed 5 reddish or orange lights against the early night sky. He would describe the lights as being 4 together with a 5th light trailing them, which we saw in that video.
Mhm.
He would also report that each of the lights appeared to have 2 separate point sources of orange light. I'm not sure what that means. 2 separate point sources of orange light. All right. I guess underneath them or something.
I'm trying to think of what that might mean. 2 separate point sources.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah.
So basically, each light had also two other sources of light.
Right.
So the police officer immediately turned his vehicle around and headed back home. Once there, he positioned himself. He's like, "Screw this."
Hold on. Guy gets in his car, looks up, and goes, "You know what? No, not tonight. I'm done."
It's like Independence Day.
Yeah,
when he
I'm going.
walks out. Yeah. Was this after? When was Independence Day? Was that 95? Oh, I don't remember.
No, I think it was.
Was it
it was like 97, 98.
Oh, so after this.
You keep reading. I'm gonna look it up because I'm
All
curious.
right. So once there, he positioned himself where he could view the lights with no disruption to his vision and watched them through a set of binoculars. They eventually vanished over the southern horizon within 2 minutes and making no sound. Yep,
That's
flares.
crazy. Yeah, that really does remind me of the movie Independence Day that came out in 1996. By the way.
Whoa! So a year before.
Yeah.
Interesting. You want to get this one? A blitz report?
Sure. A blitz of reports. At around 8:17 p.m., 20 minutes after the first sighting from Henderson, Nevada, and only 2 minutes after the sighting from Paulden, Arizona, switchboards across the 2 states lit up in a blitz of calls. Telephone operators at the National UFO Reporting Centers and other UFO groups who accepted such reports, many in various police departments, Luke Air Force Base, and media outlets. Everyone was reporting on this.
Yeah.
Far and wide would suddenly face a barrage from residents telling of strange and bizarre lights in the skies overhead. These waves of calls, incidentally, although they would slow after a few hours, would last several days. So
that's crazy.
Everyone was seeing this, not just Joe Schmo, who throw rocks at clouds.
Right.
Everyone was seeing this, including police officers. Although some of the reports varied somewhat, leading many researchers to ponder whether there was more than one type of aircraft in the skies of southwestern United States that evening, the vast majority would assert that the lights were most definitely part of a solid structure,
Yeah,
as it blocked out portions of the stars entirely as it passed. Yeah,
that's so freaky.
very freaky. I mean, that's how you know it was one big connected thing.
Yeah.
Uh, most of these most of these first wave of calls came from areas to the south of Paulden and Prescott Valley, which reside around 50 miles to the north of the city of Phoenix.
So it
Uh,
traveled a long ways to get to
mhm.
Phoenix.
One witness, John Kaiser, would make his report from Prescott Valley. He was with his wife and two sons when they noticed a cluster of lights in the sky west northwest of their location. He would report that the lights were in a distinct triangular pattern. However, he would claim that the lights were red, apart from the light at the central
Hmm.
point of the triangular craft, which was a bright white triangular
Interesting.
craft.
Yeah.
He and his family observed the object for about 2 minutes through binoculars before it, quote unquote, banked to the right and headed away from Prescott Valley towards the southeast. We've talked about triangular crafts on this show a lot. That's one of this picture you've got on screen. This is one of the most popular um, and agreed upon what people go
Yeah.
refer to when they're talking about the Phoenix Lights. I
Yeah.
mean, they saw
Bizarre.
this delta shaped craft. Very crazy.
It is really crazy. So I guess now because it moved over to Prescott and Prescott Valley. Another sighting from Prescott would.
Yeah, you cut out there. Hopefully,
All right.
Adam
So
is
many people are saying this. Oop. There we go.
hold on. You
They were
you cut
moving.
out. All you got to was another sighting from Prescott would state, and then you cut off.
Okay, yeah, I saw my screen do that. Okay, so would state the witness saw 5 yellow-white lights in a V formation. They were moving out of the northwest of their location and heading towards the northeast before it turned slightly south, eventually moving out of sight. The point of the V appeared to be the front of the craft. Regarding the lights themselves, the report would state that the first three were in a fairly tight V. The remaining two, however, were further back on the legs of the V. The object remained in sight for approximately 10 minutes. As the reports increased, one detail that remained constant was that whatever the huge object was, it made absolutely no noise whatsoever. Many witnesses would even stress this fact specifically in their reports, stating that they had gone out of their way to attempt to hear any sound, but to no avail. This, to many, alerted them more than anything else that they were witnessing something out of the ordinary. I wonder what this UFO was looking for. Just, gliding.
Yeah. This is a whole thing in
Like,
my head that I can't keep out. I'm curious about this one. So I know I brought up Hudson Valley earlier, but I think
yeah.
these are both very linked because a lot of people were seeing the same thing, and I'm wondering if this was some sort of test flight from the U.S. government,
Hmm.
to see how people would react. I'm not sold on that. I'm like 50-50. I
Yeah.
mean, again, I've said this on many episodes of the show, but I mean, we cannot fathom what a alien agenda would look like.
No. No, definitely not.
So who would know if this was, an alien craft? You can't figure out what the hell they're doing floating around above Phoenix.
Yeah, it could be just reconnaissance too on their part, and just see how we react if
Yeah, I
they if,
mean,
if they
yeah,
show up.
exactly. Yeah,
Another report, for example, from just north of Phoenix would speak of a wedge-shaped craft with 5 lights on it, which moved with a strange gliding motion. The object was so huge that it blocked out a huge portion of the starry sky. Another sighting would come from a mother and her 4 daughters. They were driving near Camelback Mountain when they witnessed an object shaped like a sergeant's stripes, come into view in front of them. They would also describe how it blocked out a large amount of the sky above as it hovered over them for around 5 minutes. Even stranger, it would fire a white beam to the ground below, causing its lights to dim somewhat. It would then move to the south towards Sky Harbor International Airport. Holy crap.
that's wild.
Yeah, man. Scary. All right. What's this one? Block out with arm's length. You want to get this one?
Yep. So, unable to block it out with a fist at arm's length. The next significant sighting in the timeline of the evening would come from Dewey, Arizona, a little after 8:20 p.m. and around 10 miles to the south of Prescott. A car full of friends was driving on Highway 69,
Woo!
heading north towards Prescott for a prearranged appointment. However, en route, they would witness, quote unquote, a very large cluster of lights. This aerial anomaly formed a clearly distinctive V shape in the sky. The driver of the car would quickly bring the vehicle to a stop in the car park of a grocery store. All of the occupants stepped out as to view the object clearer, which was now
Nice.
directly over them. Yeah, good call, driver. The witness who made the report to New Fork, who also had substantial flying and aviation experience, would claim that when he clenched his fist and held it up at arm's length, his fist still failed to cover the object.
Damn.
Such was the behemoth-like size of it. Thank God for that guy. I mean, I think my last thing that I would want to do is hold up my fist to the sky and use that as a
I know. Yeah.
as a weapon.
Woo! Power.
Uh, um, Furthermore, he would estimate that the craft was less than 1,000 feet from the ground, and yet it was absolutely silent and moved at a very slow pace. Also interesting, and something we will come back to later, the witness claimed to see a small aircraft heading in the
Huh.
direction of Prescott Airport at the time of the sighting. I did not
Ooh.
know about this part.
I wonder whose aircraft that is.
Yeah, exactly. Given that the credibility of the witness appears to be sound, it is also perhaps worth noting that his claim of reporting the incident to Prescott Airport and Luke Air Force Base. He would claim that he spoke to a female operator at Luke Air Force Base, and furthermore, this operator offered that they had been deluged,
Deluged. Deluged.
deluged.
Like a flood.
Uh, yeah, there's a whole lot of them with similar reports that evening. And investigators following the sighting, the Air Force Base would deny any such reports coming into the base. So
Come
they,
on,
God damn,
man.
God damn,
Why? Why? Why they have to just do that?
it's the U.S. government, man. They can't do anything right with UFOs and aliens.
You know, if there is a position that we'd have to get rid of, especially okay, fine, get rid of working on U.S. soil is counter intel guys.
Get rid
All
of the
these counter
CIA.
intel guys need to get out of the country. Just do it in Russia or something, you know, and
Get rid,
China.
get rid of the CIA. And yes, I'm signing my death warrant by saying that. I'll go hang out with JFK.
What is it? Cut into pieces and 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 scatter it to the winds. Cut it in a
Yeah.
million pieces and scatter it to the winds.
And then the crazy thing happened.
Yeah, it happened to him instead,
Yeah.
or his brain.
So this
Unfortunately.
happened in Phoenix City, the Phoenix City sightings. More sightings from residents of Phoenix would come into various news outlets and UFO research and investigate groups, including MUFON. We all know MUFON at this point.
Yeah,
hopefully.
enter MUFON.
One came from an anonymous witness who saw lights in a triangular formation as he walked near 42nd Street, and excuse me, I was going to say Ray Romano. Ray wrote, guys, he would state there was anywhere from 5 to 7 lights, and the object moved from north to south. As it moved away from his location, again making no sound at all, very common as we're seeing here,
Yeah.
completely soundless. Anyway, the lights began to disappear one by one as if being turned off. That's also very common with UFO
Yeah.
sightings. A lot of witnesses seem to describe the UFOs as just boop boop boop, like turning the lights off
It
one by
must be
one.
must be their propulsion or something doing. You know, who knows?
Yeah, or it's just like they're the equivalent of "Hey, look at me," or like the open signs, with
Oh yeah. Uh huh.
yeah. Anyway,
It could be their
uh,
version of FAA lights too.
God. So incidentally, this detail comes up in a much earlier sighting by Dr. Katay.
Mhm.
Katay? Katay.
Okay. Yeah.
that we will examine shortly. This is, though, one of the few initial reports to mention this detail. Whether this was down to the witness's perspective or not is open to debate. Bruce Gerboth would report a similar sighting from Awakati near Awak.
That's a tough.
Sorry, Awataki.
Awatuki.
Awatiki near South Mountain, which incidentally contains several television transmitting towers at around the same time as the witness on 42nd Street on Ray Romano Road. He would claim that a little after 8:30 p.m., a strange object with 5 amber lights and a triangular formation
There it is.
was moving steadily across the sky at a relatively high altitude. From his angle, he would claim the 5 lights were most certainly part of one single solid structure.
There it is again.
He watched it for several moments until it disappeared over the Gila River, which we also come back to later. As Gerboth was on a walk at the time of his sighting, he remained in the park for another hour before setting off back home. When he did, he witnessed the amber lights again. Man, this guy got the full show.
Lucky him.
This time they appeared out of the west-southwest direction and seemed to settle somewhere near the Estrella Mountains. He firmly believed that this was the same object from
I guess it's looking for a place to land. It's looking for something.
Yeah, it sounds like that,
right?
doesn't it?
Yeah, especially that keeps going into mountains or to mountains. Ooh, look at this. So more reports of scrambled jets. According to Channel 15, a local news station, a pilot taking off from Sky Harbor International Airport would report strange lights above him to the control tower. I think that's what's his name. They would claim, however, they could not see any unusual activity on their radar systems. Another woman, this time in Chandler, to the southeast of Phoenix, claimed her 9-year-old daughter had seen a quote-unquote traveling beam of light moving through her bedroom. This object was also witnessed by her neighbors Don and his wife Grace as it passed over their homes. They would claim to see 7 orange lights in a triangular formation on the underside of a solid structure made up of large, quote-unquote, gray panels. As they watched, one of the lights detached and moved to the right of the object. It then returned and redocked with the huge craft. They too recalled no sound whatsoever despite the low altitude of the craft and the behemoth-like size of it. What?
So one thing I want to remind our listeners of is that there's a very small portion of people who, report these sightings.
Yes.
That's why this can, these type of things can pass through a large
population.
Population center. And, there's quote unquote few witnesses. It's just most people, hell, Joe the plumber, he looks out his windows and sees this and goes, how does this affect my day to day? I got to put the kids down and kiss the wife before bed. And then, so he closed the shutters and, exactly. There's very few people that take time out of their day to report, seeing things.
I would say 4%, definitely under. I'm not going to say 1% because if it's something really extraordinary, I think more than 1% would report it. Definitely leave out their names,
Oh, definitely. Because, and especially 1994, that's when this was, right?
Wait, 97 now? Oh, no.
97. I screwed up. I think you're right. I think it's 97.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. In the 90s, you're not coming out publicly and saying, I saw a UFO. You wait apparently 30 years, like the governor of Arizona, to say that you saw this.
Yeah, exactly. Because they don't want to be ridiculed. And he ridiculed it too. And that's what I remember, actually. When this event happened, I remember him walking in wearing the whole alien costume and laughing it off like it's some funny thing. So this whole detachment is weird. So those lights also detach and then come back. Well, according to this eyewitness. So perhaps these quote-unquote detached lights were crafts in themselves. A sighting from truck driver Bill Grainer might suggest so. He was driving along Interstate 17 towards a cement plant near Luke Air Force Base when he witnessed 2 bright orange lights overhead. As he approached his destination, he also saw three jets scrambling from the airbase. They were heading towards one of the objects, which he estimated was around a mile or two away. He would describe the objects as looking like hot air balloons without the gondolas glowing a yellow orange from within. As the jets approached the nearest orb, it suddenly shot directly upwards and vanished, leaving the jets to pass by as if it had never been there. In the distance, the second orb simply hovered silently. The witnesses would even offer to take a lie detector test. The witness, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing this, and now, of course, there's all this stuff coming out, like the Go Fast video, where it's kind of the same thing, where they just go and they're gone.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, hell, when did the Go Fast video occur? 2004.
2004.
So 20 years later, we're just now getting the deets.
Yeah.
But these UFOs have been acting like this for a very long time now.
Yeah, and we started shooting them officially. I think it was 55, right? We looked those up. I think it was 1955 when the U.S. Air Force had the shoot down orders. So since then we've been trying to shoot them down, and successfully. I'm sure. Yeah, Roswell's kind of not a shoot down, but something with the radio
Yeah,
transmitters they had.
I know. The more I look into Roswell, it seems like it was an accidental shoot down.
Right. I mean, we were still radio was still new to us. We had really powerful radars there that could both transmit and receive. So yeah, and there was an electrical storm there, I think, at that time.
All right, so detail begins to break down. The further into the incident, with the calls and reports building up literally by the second, the actual timeline begins to become a little less clear.
Hmm.
Reports would come in from areas right across Nevada and, in particular, Arizona, from Tucson, Kingman, Glendale, Tempe, Scottsdale, Gilbert, Chino Valley, and of course, Phoenix. Some of them, however, still stand out from the rest. For example, an amateur astronomer from the west side of Phoenix would view the object from his home to his west. He would state the object was a cluster of solid, unblinking lights which
What?
moved steadily from north to south. In a similar description to that given by the police officer from Paulden, he would state it appeared to be that each of the lights was comprised of two individual smaller lights. Yeah, very interesting. Interestingly, he also claimed to witness two smaller aircraft in the area near to the huge object. One of these would veer off to the east and the other to the west. So, whatever it was, I mean, just going by this story, something entered our atmosphere and started dropping off other little ships.
Yeah, that were detaching and they were going different areas. So I guess this was like a mothership then, and that's why it was so big.
Right.
Oh,
Another report from Tucson came from an unnamed man who claimed he watched a strange formation of lights for around 15 minutes between 8:45 and 9 p.m. From his location, the lights came in from the northwest, passed overhead, and then disappeared from his view over the nearby mountain range. The Lay family, Tim and his wife Bobby, and their son Hal, and their grandson, who witnessed the lights from their Phoenix home. However, they would watch them approach from over 60 miles away, where they crossed
wow.
over Prescott Valley. At first, the lights appeared to be separate entities in their own right. However, the closer they came, the more of a distinct V shape they became. And they were obviously very part of the same solid and huge aircraft.
I mean, we've seen this in different videos too, where lights can come or different or separate. It looks like separate crafts come together to form one new craft, and
Yeah.
that could be just something from a highly technological civilization using material that can do that somehow.
Yeah, I mean,
And just
and
become
coming
one.
coming from a human perspective, I mean, honestly, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You've got little pieces that break off. They go collect their data or whatever the hell they're doing, collect their humans to shove things up their ass, and they come back to the main, floating base. Like I get it.
Yeah, totally makes sense. It seems efficient too to do something like that. So here are UFO family detailed testimony, Phoenix Lights.
Entire family witnessing one of these events. I thought it was very important to show the world that these events are not just happening to individuals who are involved with black government projects and other types of situations. These events happen to people from all walks of life, from all age groups, from all ethnic backgrounds, from all countries, from all classes, and from all religious beliefs.
Here we go.
My name is Tim Lee. This is my wife, Bobby, and my son, Hal. Back in March 13th of 1997, we were witnesses to seeing a UFO, an actual craft, fly directly over a house. Just to give you a little background as to how we got to see it, Hal and I had been coming back from visiting some friends, and normally we tried to eat dinner by 8 o'clock. We were running a little late, pulled into the driveway, which we were heading west. Hal was sitting in the front, and as I came around to the side of the door, he looked out the side window, and he saw up in the direction of Prescott 5 distinct lights that it actually looked like they were on top of a balloon. As we were looking at them, I said, well, what is that? Is that a balloon with lights on it? Why would they have lights on a balloon like that? And, you know, the lights were so clear and distinct, and they were very close together. But as we watched them, then we could see that whatever this was coming towards us, because the lights, the distance between the lights started getting greater and greater. At that point, he ran in the house and got my wife, Bobby, to come out and take a look and see what was going on. So when Bobby came out, we're standing there watching. My grandson, who's older than Hal, he was also there. And we watched these lights. I'd say the time it took from when we first spotted them until this thing actually went over a house was about 10 or 12 minutes. And this thing never wavered once. It always came directly straight at us. As we were standing there watching it, after a few minutes, maybe 6 or 8 minutes, I'm not sure, all of a sudden, instead of being 5 lights in a round arc shape, that lead light seemed to come out in front, and now it looked like a V formation flying towards us. I remember talking with Bobby as we were watching it. We were saying, what could that possibly be? And I said, well, maybe it's a formation of helicopters. And then I'm looking at the lights, and as they're getting further and further apart, the relationship between the lights never changed. They got further apart, but the individual distance between the lights always remained, so to speak, in the same relationship. They were perfectly even. They didn't move up or down. And I'm saying, wow, if this is a formation of aircraft, who's ever flying this, I don't know how they're staying so tight in formation. So as it got closer and closer and the lights were further and further apart, I began to think, well, maybe this is, some kind of object, and that it had to be pretty big. When it was about just a couple miles away, we're watching it, all of a sudden, I caught the image of what it was. I could see its outline. It was almost the same exact color of the sky, but because it was passing over stars, the stars were being blocked out and then come back after it passed. And it looked like an actual very geometric Carpenter square, like an equilateral triangle without the bottom. And in each arm were 2 lights evenly spaced, and in the very tip was one single light. And these lights were perfectly round and perfectly white light. The tip of this thing was like sharp as a tack, and the 2 tail ends were squared off perfectly. As it came closer and closer, we realized that it was coming straight at us. It was going to come right over us. And for some reason, I don't know how it happened, but it seemed to have dropped down in altitude. And now it was literally coming down the street. And the kids, as they saw it, they started jumping up and down because it was going very, very slow. And it looked like, hey, this thing is going to come over us and stop. And every jump they took, when they landed, they were one jump closer to running in the house. And I'm standing there now. I walked over in front of, right on the edge of the street, looking up at this thing go by, and I'm looking at the outer edge of this wing, and I could see way, way down the block, 600 feet away. I couldn't actually see the tail. I saw the 3rd light, and it's going by the outer edge of this thing was so perfectly straight, dark, almost the same color as the sky, but you could see the stars and then you couldn't see the stars. And as it's going by, it wasn't fluttering at all. It was so smooth, it almost looked like a computerized graphic. The kids out in the middle of the street said, hey, look up inside, in between the two arms. And looking at the stars inside, they looked like some kind of distortion, not a heat distortion. It just did not look as clear as the stars on the outside. He's actually out in the street running after this thing. That's how slow it was going. The kids thought it was going about 10 or 15 miles an hour. And this last light came down, and Bobby and I were just standing there, and it went right over us, and it looked like this big circular hole of pure white light. It looked like beyond fluorescent, almost like little particles of light, and the light was stuck up inside. It was almost like it was being held inside. There was no glass on it, and there was no light that I noticed around us on the ground, but it was really, really, really bright. Then the tail end of this thing went by like that, and I saw very absolute sharp-edged went by, and as it did, the stars unfolded after it. We live up on probably about 1,200 feet.
This is crazy, huh? This is a great witness testimony.
Yeah, this is just phenomenal.
I mean, and I guess I don't know how they did it back then. Because they really had. I mean, they still have control of the media and stuff, but we didn't have the internet like back then or social media.
Right.
Like, none of these came up. I only saw that one video that we saw in the beginning where it shows the lights turn on and off and then slowly descend. That's the only video I saw, and that it's flares. It's probably flares, and people will be looking at both the videos. So this is crazy. I've never heard this ever.
So I know this guy and his family. They live in Arizona, but he's from New York, right?
Oh, because his accent, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. It's funny how they're quiet though. Maybe they'll talk.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. He's doing all the talking. He's flanked by his two bodyguards who happen to be his wife and son.
Hal and Bobby. All right. I guess let's see what else he's going to say. It's only half done.
Feet above sea level. We're in a little valley above Phoenix, and surrounded by this valley are like little mountain peaks. And there's this two peaks, and in the middle of it, a little hill. This thing went right through the crack in the mountain. It flew right through there. It didn't go over the top. It just barely fit. It kind of was in such a way now it was probably just going straight, because now I could see the lights from the backside underneath. It went out straight over towards the airport, right to the right side of Squaw Peak. And then I lost the lights in whatever lights were flying around in the atmosphere, disturbance or whatever. So when I saw this technology, I know there's nothing on this planet like that. There's no capacity to fly a craft. It wasn't even flying. How could something be lifted by air going that slow? Not possible. Not possible whatsoever. This thing was not flying. It was cruising with some kind of ability. I don't know. It was absolutely perfect, under control, powerful, smooth, quiet. And I looked at that and I said, boy, I said to my wife, I said, whoever's got this technology is in cahoots with God. How wonderful, Kel.
We were freaking out because we had, like in 1996 is when Independence Day came out, and I was 10 years old. So when you see Independence Day and then you see this like craft like coming over your house, you kind of, get a little scared, because it's like, is it going to stop? Or are we going to be the people underneath going, oh no? You got those chills in the back of your neck where you get all goosebumpy and your hair stand up on end. The point at which we started getting excited was after it had gone about halfway over, and basically we got the feeling that it was just going to keep going, which was much of a relief, that it wasn't going to stop. Because if it did, I don't know what we'd do. Just go, okay. That's when we were like, oh, let's go after it, So we just literally start running down the street. Dad, come on, get in the car. We chase it. And he was just like, no. He was just looking at it, and we're like, oh. And my nephew Damien said that he probably could have thrown like a tennis ball or a rock up and hit it. It was that close.
Wow.
At the time, there was this house that was being constructed up on the hill, and there was a telephone pole, and the craft flew like right over the top. There was no sound. Like, even in the neighborhood was really quiet. Like, the only sound there ever was that there was a small, just like a small propeller plane that flew over the top of it pretty high up. It looked like this big in comparison. But yeah, that was the only sound at any point.
When Hal came to get me in the house and I was cooking dinner, he just told me that there were lights outside. And so I went running out the door looking at the lights over the mountain. I saw the lights then, at that point, and I sat with them and watched them just exactly as Tim described. When it was coming up towards us, and it seemed like it was very high, and I could see it just as clear as a bell, that it was shaped, what I said at the time was like a carpenter square. It looked like a flying carpenter square. All of a sudden, it seemed like I either looked away and I blinked and it was, right upon us and then coming right down the street. And as it left, and Tim and I were looking up into the light wells, I mean, these were circular light wells that we could not even estimate really how deep they were, since we didn't know exactly how far away it was. But the lights looked like they were at least 15 feet, wide. And I don't know how deep, because all we could see was the white light inside the wells. And then as it proceeded over the mountain, just missing the tops, like Hal said, I looked at the lights in front of it, you might say, because I wanted to see if I could see the top of it. And as it was going through, I could see a slight mound to the point, which would have been the front end of it. It just seemed like a very thin craft. When the right arm was coming over the house, we were looking at it, and I was looking at the left arm, and it just went completely over towards the mountain. That I made a comment then. I said, "Oh my God, how big is this thing?" Because it just seemed to cover the whole entire neighborhood. You know what I said as it went over after seeing that little plane? I said, "You could fit 10 stealths on one arm."
I guesstimated
Wow.
that it was each arm was about 700 feet, and if it was an equilateral triangle in the sense, then the distance between the tails would have been about 700 feet. When we talk about this, people get picky and they say, "Well, was it 200 feet? Was it 182 feet away? Is it 12 feet wide? Et cetera." Listen, it was freaking huge. It was going
Huge.
really slow. It had these big lights in it. It didn't make a sound. That's the point. It was there. We saw it. There's no doubt in our minds whatsoever what we saw. My wife and I work. He goes to school. That's our lives. We're normal folks. We're nothing special.
Well, when it first happened, I think we were so
That is crazy. I love this testimony. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It was huge.
Yeah, it was huge. 700 feet. That's nuts.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
I mean, what is that? It's that 7 football fields on each side.
Yeah.
Wait, feet is not yards. No, that'd be yards.
It just makes me wonder why we haven't, okay, so we've got cruises, right? Where it's essentially a floating hotel. I'm waiting for the floating hotel in the sky where there's no rush to get anywhere, right?
Right.
I mean, we had blimps. Obviously, that didn't end well.
No. What was that? What was it called? The accident in Germany?
Hindenburg.
Yeah.
The humanity.
I mean, those were cool things, right? I mean, they were transporting people from all across the Atlantic.
Very cool. The Empire State Building.
That's right.
Was supposed to be. That's why
Yeah.
it's got that spire on top. It was supposed to
Yep.
be a landing spot for Zeppelins.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like they actually built that.
Yeah.
But it didn't work well or something.
Well, the Hindenburg happened.
Well, yes. But I'm saying I thought it was like I just recently saw a video about this, but there was something like it wasn't easy because it gets windy up there, so they couldn't really dock. Something like that.
I don't know. I still think we should bring blimps back. I think that's a really fun idea.
Yeah, me too.
I don't see how it's any more dangerous than cruises because we've got what's that? I know hydrogen burn, right? Hydrogen.
It's hydrogen. Yeah.
Is that the one that's flammable or inflammable?
Oh, I thought they used, or was it helium they used it? They used helium. Is that why?
Whatever they used.
Yeah.
was not the right material because it burned
It
a
burned.
lot.
Right.
But we've got gases that float now that are not flammable, I think.
Exactly. And it'll be much cheaper than flying aircraft, that's for sure.
Well, and it would do a lot less destruction to the environment as well.
Exactly. Well, so you know how they mentioned that aircraft, and even the kid, he mentioned the small propeller
Yeah.
aircraft. Well, guess who was the pilot?
Oh, let's find out.
The airplane to air traffic control to say, I'm seeing these lights here. I wasn't expecting any other planes. They're none supposed to be on my landing path. Can you tell me what's going on? They said there are no other planes. He said, I'm seeing 6 bright lights coming towards me. Mystery unresolved.
Except
Oh,
tail number for that plane was Bonanza 2 Tango Sierra, and I was the pilot. No.
Kurt Russell was the pilot.
Oliver and I.
No, yes, take us back. Doesn't say that in the briefing.
Oliver and I.
I should have read to the end.
Oliver and I were flying in. I was flying him to go see his girlfriend, and we were on approach, and I saw 6 lights over the airport in absolute uniform in a V shape, and Oliver said to me, I was just looking at him, and I was coming in. We're maybe a half a mile out, and Oliver said, "Pa, what are those lights?" And I then it kind of like came out of my reverie, and I said, "I don't know what they are." I said, he said, "Are we okay here?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna call him," and I reported it. And they said, "We're not painting anything. We don't show anything." I said, "Well, okay, I'm going to declare it's unidentified, it's flying, and it's 6 objects."
Mhm.
We landed. I taxied, dropped him off, took off, went back to LA. Never said a word. He never said a word. I never thought of it. 2 years later, Goldie is watching a television show when I came home.
Yeah.
And the show is on UFOs. But as I came home, "Hey, honey, how's it going?" And I'm kind of hearing the TV going, and I stopped and I started watching, and it was on that event. Now, that was the most viewed UFO event. Over 20,000 people saw that. And I'm watching this, and I'm feeling like Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's like, why do I know this? You know what? And it's not clear to me. And finally, I said, then they said a pilot reported it. A general aviation pilot reported it on landing. I'd never thought of it since then, and I said, that was me. That was me. And I said, wait a minute, I'll go to my logbooks. So I went to my logbooks, and there was the flight at that time, and I didn't mention anything about the UFO. The fascinating part of that to me is that it just went literally out of my head.
Yeah.
And Oliver never mentioned it. And had I not seen that show, I'd have never thought of it again.
Amazing.
And that to me was the weird part.
Believe it now?
Very common with
you've mentioned to me.
sightings.
Right. It's happened to you and a bunch of friends before, right? Where
And
it
it
was
happened to
actually
my
happening,
roommate.
but no one even talked about it or something. Or
Yeah, you look at it, you see it, and you go, "Huh, that's weird," and you carry on with your night like nothing happened. And
yeah,
only later do you realize how
Right.
weird. How
you're
weird.
like, wait a minute. Do you
was.
guys remember that thing we saw?
Yeah, yeah.
That is bizarre.
Very cool. Love Kurt Russell, and I hope to God I have his hair when I'm older.
I know, right?
I mean, I've got the
hair.
long hair. It's starting to, get a little bit thinner on top. But I'll find a way, damn it. I will find a way. But yeah, I mean, so we mentioned the governor of Arizona earlier had seen this. Kurt Russell
Yes.
had seen this. And, in true UFO fashion, it takes 30 plus years for these people to come out. and speak
Exactly.
about it.
So the governor of Arizona, when it first happened, like I said before, he had a press conference, and he came to the press conference dressed like an alien.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. It was to make fun of
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
and this is why people, don't come out about their UFO sightings, about their alien abductions that happen to people. I mean, because they don't want to get made fun of on a national scale like they always do.
Yeah.
Not now, but they used to.
Still though, it still happens now. You still see it online.
Oh yeah,
you know.
I mean, you still get yeah, exactly.
Oh, dude, I can tell you the fights I used to get into like back in the 90s or early 2000s. And at one point, I told myself, I'm like, that's it. I'm not going to argue anymore. And if someone wants to argue with me I would stop them and say, look, man, I don't need convincing. I don't need to convince you. I've seen enough evidence, you can go and do that on your own. It's not my job to convince you. So, but I got to that point.
That's the interesting thing to me is I have never met a UFO believer who got converted into a skeptic.
Mm-hmm.
But I've met many skeptics who've been converted into UFO believers.
Right. Well, we can see in the UFO community many people who like joined, I guess, as skeptics and then became believers and then got sick of it because nothing ever happens. But it has nothing to do with the phenomenon, if it's real or not. Sure, the government lies about it. Tomorrow, next week, this year's the year. It's been happening for what now? 50 years.
Yeah.
And again, someone came out last week saying that we're going to have a big name come out and tell the truth about UFOs. Like, that needs to be ignored, Yep. But yeah, so here's the governor of Arizona. Like you said, 30 years later, the guy finally gets in an interview and tells us his experience of what happened that night.
March 13th, 1997. This event called Lights Over Phoenix. What did you see?
Well, I saw a huge craft just kind of come right over Squaw Peak. That was, it was just breathtaking. And I'm not sure about the date. You've got a better memory
March
for the
13th.
dates than I do. Yeah.
But there was no, like the Clinton day, no.
No. No, I was on a strict diet. No, I'm serious. I'm serious now. That unquestionably it was a UFO, which means unidentified flying object.
That doesn't mean we're being visited.
Well, it's nothing like anything I've ever seen.
And you're an Air Force guy.
Yeah, and a pilot. Got a lot of hours flying, so it was pretty breathtaking. And I'll never forget. I snuck out to see it, without DPS, which I'm not supposed to be driving my own car and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, but I told Ann what I was doing. I was going to go up to Squaw Peak and see what everybody was, clamoring about. And when I walked in the front door, she looked at me, and I was apparently normally I'm fair complected and pale anyway, right? And she said, "Oh my gosh," she said, "she looked like a ghost. What did you see?" And I said, "I don't know what I saw, but it was really something, and I'm not going to talk about it." And
wow. So did it frighten you?
No, I think I was kind of in awe, really,
How big?
Bigger than anything I've ever seen in the sky.
Like an aircraft carrier in the sky?
Yeah. Something like that, yeah. And it was hard to define because of the light in terms of the size, but it was absolutely silent and had sort of eerie embedded lights. And, so that's what I saw. And I wasn't expecting to see anything because I was looking out over at Luke to the west. And then all of a sudden, these people in the park area just on the west side of 51, there were a bunch of people there. Everybody said, "Oh, look at that!" And we turned around, and this thing was coming from the northwest, traveling to the southeast.
We now know, and it really hit me when we were watching the Diamondbacks in Game 7, and the B-1 flew over.
Mm-hmm.
Over.
It wasn't a B-1 bomber.
But that thing all of a sudden out of nowhere appears. And, I said to somebody that night, I said, well, when they do test these, they test them in populated areas. They're new stuff. They test it to see if people detect it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe it was ours? Do you believe it was something from the U.S. government that they were kind of flying around?
No, it wasn't even close to a B. It was much bigger than a B-1. A B-1 actually isn't that big.
Right.
I mean, if it's at low altitude, it'll appear big, but no, this was totally different.
Something, though, that you think our own government may have been kind of running by a populated area to see what would happen?
Well, they certainly achieved their goal of stirring the pot, if that's what they were doing. But I don't think so. I think this was technologically far advanced. I use the analogy. Can you imagine if you took Christopher Columbus and put him in the cockpit of a Boeing 777? What his reaction would be? He wouldn't understand it. He would be convinced that this is something from another world,
Is that what?
And I think I really believe that. I believe that, but I've always been open to that. We're not alone in the universe.
I agree with
We're
you
going to
there.
find that. We're going to find that out one way or the other.
All right, the interviewer is an asshole. Oh, excuse my French there. But
That's okay. I've been cussing since like 10 seconds in.
I mean, easy there, guy. He's really trying to push. All right, so this thing. All right, so say if it was that 1997, we're in 2024. Have we seen anything close to something like that coming out? We saw an upgrade to the B2, which is a B21 now, and it looks really cool.
Right,
Probably
but
has cool technology in there.
one of, I mean, it's not nearly as big, and so. He talks about size, but also something to bring up is, and something we played in a few videos ago, is that family from New York who saw it, and they're talking about how slow it was moving.
Yeah.
And our planes just don't have that technology to.
No.
Well, you know what? I take it back. There's some. We've got VTOL now, a vertical takeoff.
Okay, but they're loud too, right? Like really loud.
Very loud. But just to, I don't think a B1 has that capability like this guy's positing.
No, there is electrogravitics, right? But it's still kind of loud. It still makes a lot of noise. But they supposedly use electrogravitics, so it reduces the weight of the craft by like, I don't know, 50%, something like that. So, but nothing like what they're talking about, especially with these lights that don't emit any lights. He was saying there's no shadows on the ground. Like the lights are really bright, but nothing's coming down. It's like a what did they say? Like a hole of light.
Yeah, I mean, right. Like if you opened up your door and you lit a light outside of your room, that's how I'm picturing it. Right?
Yeah.
So you're in your room, it's dark, you open the door, but you light a light out in the kitchen or whatever. Yeah. Very, very bizarre.
And he's serious and obviously very insulted. The guy saying, "Are you sure it wasn't a?" I mean, the guy was governor of Arizona. When you're a governor, you're basically like a president of a country. Arizona is huge, you know. And the governor, they would have told him something. But I guess this is him. That's actually him in the picture here with the alien.
Oh yeah, that whole thing. We can skip that. Yeah.
All right. So, and then I did find this from MediaMonarchy.com.
Oh wow, this is a hell of a website. Do you have the static in the background, or is that just me?
Which one?
I'm looking at this website. What I'm looking at, there's the background is totally just static.
Oh really?
Yeah. Oh man. All right. So it's not for you, huh?
No. So is the background black?
It's like if you're looking at a TV screen, that's just nothing but white noise.
Oh, now I see it. Yeah, I see it now.
Okay.
Yeah. He probably does that on purpose.
Yeah.
So more evidence: Phoenix Lights holographic projection.
Oh,
now, the thing is, these are dead links. It's from Examiner.com. I click on them. He goes, writer Randall Fitzgerald supports his holograph hypothesis of 1997 Phoenix Lights in article More Evidence for Arizona Lights as a Holographic Projection. This link doesn't go anywhere. With details of 2 active military projects developing holographic projectors at the time. The article is a follow-up of his 2-part series. Quote, were the 1997 Arizona Lights a psychological warfare experiment? Part 1 and Part 2. Fitzgerald briefly summarizes 2 military projects he uncovered already at work on holographic projection in the mid-90s. I don't know what you think about that.
I think a lot of people have healthy skepticism of our government and what they're up to. They clearly do have some hologram technology. I don't know where they were in 1997 with that.
Yeah.
But I don't buy this.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds like a disinformation agent. Maybe we should look up this. Maybe we should look up this guy. What's his name? Randall Fitzgerald. So there are some quotes from his articles, and it's good for us, to show different sides of what is possible. But these people saw something physical. Many people where it just floated over them. I mean, it's different when it just seems like they're still talking about that video, that one video, the famous one, over the mountains, over Phoenix. So yeah, when you do it that way, sure, it could be a holograph.
Well,
I'm not denying it.
here, let me read this.
Yeah.
The first holographic project originated at the Army Research Lab at Adelphi, Maryland. Coincidence or not, it was the Maryland Air National Guard which dropped the flares around 10 p.m. on March 13th, seen widely in the Phoenix area, that served to confuse the situation about whether the UFOs were planes, flares, or a single huge object.
Perfect.
Don't believe your lying eyes.
Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. Shame on me, DeMark. He's usually maybe he's just sharing the news. I mean, I shouldn't say that. He's got a great show. But I mean, it is interesting information. So I guess titled a 3D holographic display, this November 1996 progress report for the Army Research Lab discussed research and development of an innovative technique for generating a three-dimensional holographic display. The resultant image is a hologram that can be viewed in real time over a wide perspective or field of view. As with most military intelligence studies that leak into the public domain, this one gives no significant clues about the extent to which this technology is really operational. Duh, there it is, leaked for a reason.
Now, we've talked about Project Blue Book.
Yes.
And this is essentially what Project Blue Book is. A big part of it is that they will use this holographic technology to bring back Jesus or Allah.
Right.
You know, depending on the region you live in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the theory is not that far fetched. But again, why I've got such umbrage with this theory is, 20,000 people saw this. We went through, 2 eyewitness accounts of what happened, and it just doesn't line up at all with, what this theory is putting forward.
Right. And a hologram, I mean, I think with Kurt Russell seeing it from top, that wouldn't have been possible either, because it would have to be directed from the observer from the bottom. I don't think you can have a 360-degree holographic view.
We're still struggling with holographics. I mean, do you remember at Coachella they put
Tupac.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember Tupac's name. This is a sad day in history. They put Tupac on stage with Snoop Dogg, and that was it was only visible if you were seated at the right
exactly.
part.
Yeah.
And even like that, the Sphere, right? In Vegas, it's called the Sphere, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same kind of deal. You have to be at a certain spot, otherwise it looks all wonky.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So but it was good to bring up that's what was out there at the time. And that's it. I mean, I think this is a real event. Hard to say if it's US technology or not. It just is.
Yeah.
Because as we've shown on this show, is the secret government's been at this for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, I don't think this is a hologram, but I'm about 50-50 on if this is a top secret US program that they're rolling out or something slipped through the veil. And we obviously don't know how to respond to that.
Yeah. I mean, I trust also like the witness's gut feeling, because sometimes even if it's a technology that you don't understand, you might have a gut feeling like, oh, it's still there's humans there, or it's a human thing. But a lot of them had a gut feeling that this is something else.
Yeah.
And that's why I get a feeling from the Levy family. Was that what they were, or Lay family?
I think it was Lee.
Lee,
yeah. How they pronounce it.
Yeah, and the governor.
Yeah.
I mean, the governor, you can see in his face. He's like, yeah, that thing was just something else. So, but what a cool incident.
Very cool. Yeah, and just I was gonna say not scary, but they're shooting beams down. Who knows what happened to the people in those beams? So maybe it's really scary to them. if they were in fact beaming on people. Very, very interesting regardless, and so cool. So many people saw it. I hope, in our lifetime we get to see UFOs up close and personal.
Would not be
if
cool.
they're not Independence Day aliens, that'd be nice.
Right, exactly. Just saying hello.
Yeah. And hopefully it happens during the daytime, so we can all see it. But let's move on to some other stuff that's happening in the world of UFOs.
Well, this one, it doesn't really pertain to UFOs.
World of conspiracies.
Right. So we talked about this a few months ago. Remember that affliction people or some medical, it was a new medical diagnosis on people seeing faces of demons.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Yes. Because when you sent this to me originally, I said, I could have sworn I've heard about this. And then, you said, yeah, we talked about it on the show and here's the article. And I was like, oh yeah, shit, that's where I've heard it from. But yeah, this poor guy.
Yeah, he was terrified. So apparently this happened to him. He's going to tell us his story.
Hey, so today I experienced something that I've never experienced in my life before. Freaked me out. Thought I was crazy. Still haven't processed it fully. So, as I do every week, twice a week, I make deliveries to the same guy. I've been doing it for 7 months. And it's the same guy every time I walk in. He's got a big garage with like a couple trucks in it. I walk in, I hand him his parts. We talk for a minute. I walk away. I go on my business. Today, I walked in, and he had his back to me, and he was working on his bench. And he must have heard me coming. I don't know, because I was actually pretty quiet, I thought. But when he turned around, I jumped and kind of grabbed my mouth like that because I didn't know what to think. And he laughed a little bit, and he called me jumpy. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm just not feeling very good. And I handed him his part, and I was like, hey, I got to go. The reason I reacted that way is because when I looked at him, he was different. He didn't look like the same guy I saw every other time. First thing I saw was he had no color in his eyes. They were completely black. Like you couldn't even see reflections. It was just a black mass.
Whoa.
And for some reason, his ears were kind of weird, and they had like this little point like that. I don't know what that was. Excuse me. But then I was talking to my friend, and he sent me an article about them saying that a new disorder that's coming out where people are starting to see demon faces in people. And it got me thinking, if they're putting something like that out, could it be a disorder, or is it God is actually letting people see demons and they're just trying to make it look like we're crazy? I can't
imagine you're the guy that he delivers to watching this. Going, wait a minute, is he calling me a demon?
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who are not watching this podcast, this guy's on the verge of tears describing this.
Oh yeah.
He's really freaked out. Yeah, there it is. There's the article. I think we posted that.
Yeah. So we are living in the end days, ladies and gentlemen. Get ready, scary times ahead in a very real sense. I mean, a lot of people are saying we are in some kind of apocalypse going on, Armageddon, if you want to call it. And maybe that's what this article also, they put this out there to tell people, oh, don't worry, if you see some demons, it's just some new diagnosis.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's really freaky. The few times in my life where I've had hallucinations, it's usually not visual. It's auditory. But I don't want I don't wish this on anybody.
No.
If it truly is some sort of medical condition, which again, why is this popping up now?
Why now? Yeah. Why
Yeah.
now? I mean, they could have easily diagnosed this at any time when science and psychology was, investigating human psychology and schizophrenia and all that stuff, right? But it comes out now,
right? I mean, this does feel like the beginning of a horror movie.
We live in some interesting times, don't we? I was on track to do a completely different topic today, to talk about something completely different. When I was surrendering to the Lord, which I do prior to every video, this article just flashed in my mind. So we're going to circle back on this because I think that we are walking into some really weird times. The enemy, and thus the media, want you to be conditioned to think that you are going crazy, that you have a mental disorder, that you need to be checked in if this happens to you. If you see demonic faces in human beings, they want you to think you need to submit yourself to a hospital, when in reality, we live in a spiritual world. And as we progress towards tribulation, as we progress in these end days, this will become more common. We are already seeing
come on. Reality. But yeah, I mean, the crazies are going to come out, of course.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I appreciate what you're saying, but I just don't like people that post those kind of things because it's clearly for attention.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I thought this was a cool post from Jay Anderson from Project Unity.
Yeah, this is really cool. I saw this earlier this week too. Very interesting. Tom DeLonge was told by, that's the lead singer of Blink-182, everybody. Or was, I don't know if he still is. Anyway, he was told by senior officials in the Pentagon that a great cataclysm occurred on the planet that wiped out an advanced civilization. Some of them survived by fleeing off-world and began interfacing with humanity over time, and that's who the Greek gods were. So this theory has been floating around for a long time.
Yeah,
I believe half of it, or a quarter of it. What I believe is that there were advanced, like humanity was advanced long before that led to
right.
That's
an advanced human civilization and remnants of them. Okay, let's put it this way: so we have our elite, right? Super elite. Them and the military have been building deep underground military bases, right, since the 60s or 70s. We know they have really advanced technology, reverse engineers from aliens or not. We just know that there's a super secret black budget, program out there with technologies that we have shown, could take ET home, and, other quotes from like Skunkworks. Now, say like a world war happens and destroys 90% of humanity. They're underground. They have all this technology. They reemerge, right? They reemerge in their new technology. They'll be kind of godlike. And if they're interfering with like other humans, remnants of humanity that survived this, that are poor, that are, I guess, uneducated because they lost all these records in the war.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, finish.
Yeah, so they would be treated like gods themselves because they would, they'll come back and they'll teach them science, they'll teach them math, they'll be flying around, so wouldn't that part of humanity think the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and how long, this is what I was going to say, is how long do these people have to wait, really? 2 generations, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you have to wait that long. I mean, obviously, the people who survive on the surface of a nuclear war, the apocalypse, whatever, they're going to remember, oh, I had an iPhone back then. There was a thing called the internet.
Right.
But then their kids, all they hear are stories about, technology and what have you. And then these people come out of the ground and they're like, do you remember all those stories about technology? Here, I have it right here. I can show you. And then boom, that's a god. I mean, it's it's crazy to think about. I mean, and I think we talked about this either last episode or the episode before, but constantly, like every year, it feels like there's a story coming about how archaeologists digging up cities that thrived, 1,000, 2,000 years ago. I don't that far-fetched to look back 20, 30, 50,000 years ago and say, hey, there was a civilization here that was advanced and we didn't know about them.
Yeah, and there's cataclysms that happen periodically, and it's a cycle. It happens all the time. So who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe we're number 5, number 6 iteration.
Yeah, AJ at the Y Files has a great. He's got so many videos that actually cover this topic.
Yeah. I mean, basically, it's a pole shift, right? That would
Yeah.
really do it. Yeah, and the sun. But I believe it. I believe it. So I mean, maybe those are. Well, if it happened in the days of Rome, yeah. But anyway, it's a great concept.
Yeah, fun fact. I'm actually named. Oh, never mind. Never mind.
I love that name.
I'm named after a dog. That's the.
Yes.
I was going to make a joke and then end with I'm named after a dog, which is the true story, but I can't say that. I can't make the full joke anyway.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
One day when we're rich and famous, living in our giant pyramids, podcasting out to the world.
Yes. I was gonna plug our support, but this is not the time to do that.
Not yet.
So, is this John Stewart? John Stewart. Well, so he's that researcher that really pushed the alien interview one and really investigated that one to death. Remember that leak from the DIA?
Mhm.
That's suffocating.
Yeah.
You know when you see him. Anyway, so he has a show and a YouTube channel. And he gets lots of people sending him letters. So apparently a DARPA scientist sent him an email about the truth about the phenomenon. And he's going to read the letter. So I thought it was interesting. Again, take it with a grain of salt. It could be just anyone anonymous writing him an email.
Sure.
Scientist. Like John, I wouldn't exactly call it an invasion or attack. It seems more like an acquisition of valuable resources, i.e., the Earth and all it contains. So, it's pretty. I think that's even more terrifying. So, she goes on. My essay is just a basic attempt to describe what the aliens are up to based on their actions. Trying to analyze their culture is more speculative, but I'll give you my 2 cents worth. This was obviously a woman that had some close contact or kind of rubbed shoulders with the phenomenon to some degree while working at DARPA, which she said, quote, is a very scary place. Okay, just to give you the backstory in case you're just joining us. The behavior of these creatures seems surprisingly mundane and repetitive. Their main concerns seems to be gathering food, fostering their species, and maintaining or expanding control of their territory. They exhibit a typical hive mentality, acting in unison and without personal ambition. Such a culture would have required a very long time to evolve, although it may have received assistance from a more advanced source. As with most insects, creatures like these will naturally tend to expand and multiply whenever conditions are favorable. There is nothing noble or admirable about them. That's a pretty interesting line. There is nothing notable or admirable about them. In many ways, they aren't even very clever. It is only their technology that enables them to prey upon us, but that advantage will not last forever. By failing to make peaceful contact and treating us like lab rats and a food source, that terrifies me, by the way, they have defined the nature of the relationship in a way that places us on an extremely confrontational path. Considering our very rapid rate of technological process, we could soon pose a serious threat to them. So either they're too stupid to realize it, or they're simply overconfident and unconcerned. However, the possibility also exists that there is a large number of those creatures currently en route, and when they arrive, they intend to decimate the entire planet in a relatively short time. Therefore, would have no reason to establish any sort of friendly relations since they expect us to soon all be dead.
Well, that's scary. So maybe like what we see now, and we've seen since the 40s, were just like, and that's where they're drones or like they're like robots. They're here to study the place, study us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And before like the real
I mean,
owners come in.
This seems very on brand for the Greys.
Yeah.
The hive mind thing, not caring about the individual thing, but the whole. I
Right.
mean, this is right on brand.
And that they seem emotional. I mean, sorry, not emotional.
Right.
Even
They're
though
little biological robots.
Right. Exactly. So could you imagine their creators, how scary they would be?
Right.
Oh, yeah. Is there more? All right, rocking chair.
We may be in a race with our time for our own survival. And that naturally implies that we have to get rid of these creatures as quickly as we possibly can. I'm quite sure the military realized this a long time ago, and it is the root of just about everything they're doing for the past 77 years. Cheers, Jill, the DARPA
Cheers.
scientist.
Well, thanks, Jill, DARPA scientist.
Yeah. Thanks for the,
Very uplifting.
Yeah. Thanks for the great stuff. Really appreciate that.
I mean, all right. So she's basically saying that we could be being invaded very soon, right?
Yeah, or we're currently being invaded.
Yeah, we're currently being invaded, but then the end of it is coming soon.
Like the big scale invasion.
Yeah.
Battle LA, terrible movie. A fun real life event.
Yeah, they could have done such a good job with that movie. Why would you ruin such an important event with that movie?
Don't know. Such a bummer.
We know about this guy, Paul Hellyer,
Mm-hmm.
ex-defense minister.
From Canada.
Yes, from Canada. So this one says ETs from Andromeda and Saturn's moon visiting Earth for thousands of years. So, I mean, it's not just the Greys.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion in the UFO community about the different races of ETs, which I always find really interesting from a fiction point of view. I'm not sure I truly believe, but it's something. I mean, Zeta Reticuli always comes up. You've got multiple people from different backgrounds, cultures, people who have no contact with each other talking about the same types of aliens. Obviously, the Greys are the ones that are the most seen and reported on. You've got your
and the Nordics.
The Nordics are very popular. You've got the
mantids.
Those are the most terrifying ones. One that look like praying mantises. You've got the lizard people.
The lizard people, yes,
of course. But it is weird because all of these people from across the world see these different groups of aliens.
Yeah, and
I mean, how many more videos do we have to post about things weird happening on the moon for people to finally start waking up, being like, "Oh, damn, there's something going on up there."
I mean, maybe they don't, like you said about the plumber that would see it, or maybe it's just not important to his life, and it just doesn't. I mean, he would, even if it came out, if the government came out and said, "Yep, this stuff is real," he'd be like, "Oh, all right, that makes sense." Moving on.
Right. So, I just in my mind now, I went in two different directions. I was thinking about Joe the plumber. There's a bright light in my room, and he wakes up. He goes out into the living room, and there's aliens doing something to one of his kids, and he goes, "Hey, knock it off. I'm trying to sleep in here," and he goes back to his room and just goes back to bed.
Yeah.
But then also I was thinking about Betty Andreessen, one of my favorite UFO abduction cases, where she just assumed that they were angels, and she tried cooking them food, and she wanted to talk about the Bible with them. And because she was so not freaked out by it, they took her on a little mystical journey.
Interesting. I've always thought about that because I feel like prophets are abductees, but I think that a different mindset where they were open. They really wanted and were interested in meeting other non-human intelligences, and that's why their experiences were different. They were more positive. They were more interesting, because and you have to get into that mindset where you just won't be scared. And then because if you are, then you're kind of racist in a way, wouldn't you think? Like,
yeah. Oh, hey, this
Yeah.
two-legged, two-armed creatures in front of me, and it's not human. Like, oh, gross, weird.
right.
Yeah,
Must be a demon.
right. Or you go the other route where you go like, oh, hey, this is kind of neat. Like, yeah,
Right.
I mean, you look different from what I would expect, but I'd still
Mhm.
like to converse and understand you.
Exactly. That should be the attitude.
And I
That-
hope
that
I'm
should be
I
it.
hope I'm getting there by watching all these horror movies, so I'm not scared anymore.
Interesting. Yeah, that could be some good conditioning there. Where if that doesn't scare you, then if you see something in real life that's just as scary, you'd be like, oh, all right.
Could you imagine you wake up and you've got an alien standing above you, goes, I want to stick this in your anus? Be like, no. Listen. I want to get to know you before you
Yeah.
start doing things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. Can we work up to that, please? Let's get to know each other first.
Hey, listen. I've had lots of things in my anus. That we got to talk about that before. I want to understand why that's going up my butt.
That's hilarious. Well, it always freaked me out from Communion. How he always, that one scene where
Yeah.
he's in bed and is looking on the side of his door.
Yeah.
That just in my head, that scene always freaked me out. So when I do wake up sometimes at night, I always look out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting
man,
it.
Comedian. It's such a bad, good movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Christopher Walken obviously did not care
Legend.
about
No.
being in that movie. But man, it's so much fun. Like the gray, like the mask comes off. But
Yeah.
he's also dealing with the short guys. Oh man, so cool.
So weird. But yeah, bad, good movie.
Yeah.
So Hellier, I mean, he had some crazy things to say at the end of his life. He died in 2021.
Yeah.
But he was Minister of Defense of Canada, and he believed the U.S. were shooting down UFOs, and was in a secret war with aliens. And this is just not some crazy guy. I mean, you can't say that.
Right.
I mean, he might be the only, if not, I mean, he's definitely the first, and I think he might be the only leader of a G8 nation that said that aliens are real.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say there's a lot of South American politicians that have come out and said they believe in aliens and whatnot. But yeah, G8 nation for sure.
So he goes.
How do you pronounce that name?
Shevardnadze.
Oh boy.
Shevardnadze further asked Hellier if shooting down those UFOs was risking an interstellar war, and if so, quote, should we be creating a Star Wars force to defend ourselves from possible invasion or something like that? Hellier said, I think it's a possibility, but it's a possibility especially if we shoot down every UFO that comes into our airspace without asking who they are and what they want. Right from the beginning, we started scrambling planes, trying to shoot them down, but their technology was superior enough that we weren't able to get away with it. Certainly not for a long time. He continued, during that period of time, they could have taken us over without any trouble if they wanted to. So I think, rather than developing our own Star Wars to protect ourselves against them, we should work with the benign species that are of a vast majority and work together and rely largely on them, of course, and cooperate so that we would be contributing something at the same time. I don't think there's any point in us developing a galactic force that would tempt us to ride on our own and get into mischief, which is one of the things that some of them are concerned about. Interesting. So he's saying that we're in agreement with the wrong ones, which is part of the lore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Because there's why did we team up with the evil ones?
Well, because
allegedly,
allegedly, assuming because they gave us technology. I mean, that's end all be all. Because America, I'm not a socialist, but this country is driven by capitalism and making money. and I
beating
just
competition.
The U.S. government figured out like, hey, these guys will give us Wi-Fi. These guys will give us highly advanced weaponry or stealth technology. Why wouldn't we side with these guys? We're the good aliens, the Nordics, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Tall, blonde.
Yes, that's why you're racist. You white supremacist.
beautiful aliens.
Blue eyes, blonde. Yes.
Those ones just want peace and love, and let's all get along. And but that doesn't drive the American government. Unfortunately, we don't. The American government doesn't get along with peace. That we
as we can see today,
we love blowing stuff up and killing other poor people. It's
any excuse for a war, any excuse. Yeah,
exactly.
That's unfortunate, but that's the truth. And there's always been these stories of these other benign aliens asking us to stop creating nuclear weapons and building them and stockpiling them, and we never want to do that. Understandably, I guess, because it makes us powerful, to a threatening alien force, right?
Yeah, I get it from a bully on the playground standpoint. Like, I understand you want to be the biggest and the baddest, so nobody picks on you. But then when you start, you do that for self-defense, right? But then when it turns into picking on other people,
right?
That's where I draw the line. I go, no,
destroying countries.
Yeah, not just destroying countries, and not from a physical, not from like blowing stuff up standpoint, from like the inside out, like all the CIA operations that happened, in South America and Vietnam and all this other
everywhere.
Shit. Yeah,
even Iran, right? I mean,
yeah,
it goes back to like the early days, meddling even with our country. It's not like they don't do it here,
right?
All right, so here's a final one. Hellier argued that not only have aliens already visited Earth, but that they have helped contribute to humanity's technological progression. He said Earthlings owe a lot to their alien friends. Quote, even that computer screen on your desk, he said, can trace its origins to spaceships. Microchips, for example, fiber optics, they are just two of the many things that allegedly, and probably for real, came from crashed vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
So rest in peace, Mr. Hellier.
Yeah, all of you at home, if you could give a Hellier,
Hellier. He was cool.
Yeah,
and he wasn't ashamed of coming out and being who he was
and
to tell the world about this.
He got made fun of relentlessly, but he stayed to his beliefs.
Yeah, he really did. So yes, rest in peace, Mr. Hellier. Hopefully more leaders will come out, but I doubt it. It's politics is so controlled.
Oh, totally.
More than ever. I sent you this interview. What do you think about it?
Aliens may be future humans. Reality check with Ross Coulthard. I mean, it's a possibility. This also is a big point of contention or discussion with the UFO community. Are aliens just really far future humans? I don't know. I don't believe it, but I could see it being possible. If you've ever watched, I mean, I know you've watched Fringe, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love Fringe.
The Men in Black, they were future humans that had been biologically cut off from their emotions, and they were trying to come back and like influence events to ensure their existence. I mean, it's
or at a minimum, just watch the events, right?
Yeah, I mean, like it's not a concept that's unfathomable.
No,
but
still,
I could see, like let's say millions of years. I mean, I'm talking millions. Like the dinosaurs lived a million, millions and millions of years ago. That is such a long time. And if you go forward, everything that we're talking about now, it will not exist, right? It just on a long enough time scale, everything that's happening today won't exist. It never happened.
No. No, exactly.
And so if these are very future humans who have evolved and yada yada yada, and they're trying to figure out like what are we? What we've got the technology to figure it out. Let's go back and figure it out. Like I could see that. I honestly could see that.
But you'll have nothing to do with the species, right? It's strictly like a historian kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to mess with anything either.
Yeah, and see therein lies the problem, is the fact these aliens are messing with us, which is why ultimately I don't think this is the actual case.
Yeah.
Because they are scooping us up, they're poking us, they're shoving things in places where things shouldn't go.
So the interview he did, Ross Coulthard, was with the guy. He's one of the authors of that Harvard paper of the crypto-terrestrials. Yeah, so that's the guy he talked to. Yeah, I mean, he's a cool guy. I think he's a skeptic of aliens, so maybe that's what motivated him to do this. But I don't know. I do believe in the crypto-terrestrial thing. I mean, we just talked about it with the Greek gods. You know, I mean, obviously it's a possibility, especially if you understand that we live in some kind of construct that repeats every like a certain amount of time. Cataclysms happen, and that's why they destroy records. That's why they destroy calendars, and we have to create more new calendars. But if you study all these, is obviously a cyclical thing that happens to our civilizations.
And we suck at making calendars. Leap day every 4 years? That doesn't make any sense.
I know. Our recent one is ridiculous. But here's another interview Ross Coulthard did. And this guy studies the science of UFOs. He actually worked at Skinwalker Ranch.
Hell
and
yeah.
And what he does, or what he did, or does, they measure electromagnetic activity around people that say they get abducted or see UFOs in a scientific way.
Nice.
Which is cool. And double blind and all that, where he had them make journals. They didn't know they were being scanned for stuff. And there were a lot of anomalies that they caught with these people.
Let's listen to what he has to say.
So it was a nice little system that was set up for them. So these devices just sit there and record, and they're just all in the background record. But you also gave them a nice little portal where they can actually log all of their anecdotal narratives of, like, you know, I woke up and I had this incredible dream. The dogs were barking, and all of a sudden there was an orb that flew by. I went outside, I looked up, and there was something, and I took a picture of it. So we have all the narratives and all of this anecdotal information from these people for, over 3 years worth of data. We had well over 35 people that actually participated in this. And it's like gobs and gobs of data that we put through models, and we allowed us to do.
So let me cut to the quick. There's a case study in one of your PowerPoints that you very kindly sent me, and it's number 316. And in it, the patient is quoted as saying, immediately after you've picked up some data that actually corroborates this, they say, quote, "I am telling you, last night was such a crazy night. If I were to ever say I was abducted, it would have been last night. It was the strangest experience." Can you tell me, I don't expect you to know this off by heart, but can you tell me, do you recall what you picked up in terms of correlative, measurable data at the exact point that person described that experience?
Right. So the interesting part of the experiment that we did is that it's sort of a blind experiment. The people have no idea what the data looks like. They never really know. They know maybe 2 or 3 weeks later. But they just put these like things in, and this one popped up one night, and I looked at it and I said, well, that's interesting. And when they pop up, they also show the system shows you what's going on all the other sensors, and all of a sudden I had to see at the exact moment that person said that, leading up to that point, there was this enormous electromagnetic spike and gamma spike simultaneously in 2 of the sensors. So it was like the person had this incredible dream, or whatever happened to them. They had this feeling that there were, something was going on with them. And I looked at the recording of the sensors, and that popped out. There was this enormous amount of electromagnetic energy and gamma energy in the room.
Just to give the viewers the exact numbers, it was 22 times the normal levels of gamma radiation.
Yes, I
and
forgot about that. Yeah, that's
10 times the normal levels of microwave radiation. Now, is there anything prosaic, anything normal, anything mundane that can explain how it came to be that at the very same time that that person was reporting anomalous phenomena or experience, you were detecting with your independent sensors, without the knowledge of that person, huge leaps in gamma radiation and microwave radiation?
So I can explain probably a very simple way that you can do electromagnetic energy. I mean, you can put it in a microwave and you can zap it. I mean, that's one way to do it. The gamma, though, that when the gamma spikes, you can't go to a Home Depot and do gammas and buy anything to do that. I mean, that's something that, you know, you'd have to go to a linear accelerator or something like that, or go to a oncology to have any kind of gamma of that level.
So, Jim, I'm doing you the favor of making the point here. You're a very cautious, measured, objective scientist. What I love about your research is, frankly, it's a poke in the eye for the people in mainstream science who contemptuously dismiss the idea that there isn't this kind of work being done. You are looking at controlled blind studies where test subjects are reporting anomalous phenomena, and you are receiving data independently without the knowledge of those people, verifying at exactly the same time that they are experiencing spikes in, well, isn't that alarmingly dangerous levels of radiation we're talking about? 22 times normal gamma?
Yeah, but it happens over short periods of time. So it's not like it's, in other words, if you go into an oncology and you had radiation, therapy for some lesion, it's something that would be over minutes and hours. This is like very, very short, very high pulses. So, I don't make it fantastic or anything, but it's almost like it's been turned on, turned off really quickly. So, but it's enough for the instrumentation to measure it. And so, and people ask me all the time, should I leave my house? Should I just leave the state? I said, radon is in everybody's house, and I don't know, and everybody has it, and you can see the radon clicking across because there's a Geiger counter in these devices that are actually measuring all of the all of the gamma, alpha particles and beta particles. But it's when you have that little background energy and all of a sudden, bam, it takes off, and it correlates with when somebody says, I just had this incredible sensation that I'm being watched, or, I looked up in the sky and I saw something flying by. That's when you get some really good scientific data.
Weird. So maybe they weren't really targeted for abduction, but like some craft went over their house, so then they had that experience
or something. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, so there's lots of science being done with this, and you just said double blind. These are real, good experiments.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone ever says there's no science, nothing to prove, here it is. That's just one.
Yeah, but honestly, if someone says that, they're not worth talking to because they're purposely being obtuse.
Yeah, and exactly, and just don't want to look at the evidence.
It's like if someone tells you the sky isn't blue, you just have to kind of shake your head and roll your eyes. I mean, obviously this is happening, and there's something really weird going on. And if you're not willing to accept that, then you aren't willing to accept anything. And so what's the point of talking to that person?
Yeah, I mean, the gamma rays thing is really scary. I mean,
yeah.
What the hell is creating those?
I mean, last week we covered the UFO stuff going on in Brazil, Project Saucer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stories that come out of South America in general, where these people are showing radiation sickness after they claim to be abducted by UFOs. And it's kind of like, where the hell are you getting radiation? You're from this small, fishing village off the coast of nowhere. So it's like, look at these people, radiation for what, and God, we've talked countless times about UFOs being around nuclear weapons, nuclear power plants. And there's something about radiation that just, it's a part of UFO
It is.
I don't want to say culture, part of the UFO experience.
Yeah, it definitely is. Either, I mean, they're very attracted to it, and it could be because it's an energy source that they use as well, maybe in a different way, or they know that if that's a signal of an advanced species or a species that's becoming advanced.
Yeah.
You know.
God, what if these they're truly idiots and they go, anyone who's close to radiation must be advanced. The rest of them are just monkeys.
Just in that vicinity.
Yeah.
We'll go talk to those guys and land.
So you've got an article here from the Japan Times.
Yes.
The real government conspiracy isn't about UFOs. The authorities are just embarrassed to admit that they don't know if they are real.
Interesting, huh?
Alien Crossing, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, following last summer's congressional hearings on UFOs, the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, as we infamously know, is called AARO. They issued a 63-page report evaluating almost 80 years of evidence. Its conclusion, not altogether surprising given the name of the office, can be summarized as follows. Not much to see here. Please move on.
Right.
The Senate Intelligence Committee isn't buying it. Thank God. The Intelligence Authorization Act, which passed recently, among other things, calls for review of AARO. The bill would also limit research into what are now called UAPs, formerly called UFOs. They're not UAPs. Unless Congress is informed, and add whistleblower protections for anyone who might wish to step forward and speak their minds. Less plausible claims about UAPs have been achieving greater circulation, in part because of the efforts of David Grush, who testified before Congress last year about hidden alien bodies, crashed vehicles, and secret conspiracies. Those claims, which primary witnesses have not corroborated, defy belief, and the ensuing controversy has helped make concerns about UAPs appear silly.
Uh-huh.
Very interesting stuff. I'm glad that Congress is doing a pushback on AARO's bullshit, because everyone from the neighbor whose name I don't know across the little walkway that I could go knock on his door, he knows it's bullshit. Every politician knows this bullshit.
Right.
Let's see here. It is not until page 26 that the report concedes a small percentage of cases have potentially anomalous characteristics or concerning characteristics. AARO has kept Congress fully and currently informed of its findings. AARO's research continues on these cases. Those sentences should have been on the first page, and then the report should have been presented the evidence about those cases. If this were an undergraduate term paper, I would have given it a D+.
Why the plus? He's being nice.
Yeah, that's a way to cushion the blow a little bit.
Yeah, so he's definitely not a fan of AARO.
No. I don't. Is anyone a fan of AARO?
No,
Except
I
for
don't. Well,
Kirkpatrick?
Mick West, maybe.
Mick West.
Yeah. So I guess this guy's saying the conspiracy, to the extent there is one, is not to suppress evidence of different life forms, is to avoid admitting the embarrassing absence of any real answers. So at the very least, the Senate Intelligence Committee deserves credit for reopening the issue. I don't know if that's
truth.
Yeah, I don't know if that's. I mean, fine. That is a good angle to go to. I just think they're lying. They know, if they have nuts and bolts technology and biologics, they have some answers to what they are. Not all.
No. I think this article is saying that that what you said is true, that they do have answers, but they're suppressing it. And that's the conspiracy, is that Congress knows that AARO and all these other organizations have the answers, but they're hiding it.
And that's why they want to reopen it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So cool. I mean, by admitting that there is a real puzzle to be solved, the Senate Intelligence Committee has moved decisively to answer the first question, which is, is there a major puzzle to account for? Once we clarify exactly what the puzzle is, maybe we'll be able to make some progress explaining it. Well, I like that. Although it's the Japan Times, it's not in the U.S. I like that people are taking this apart, taking the Arrow report apart in the mainstream. And this is a good thing about a good post about Grush. So Elizondo filed a DOD IG complaint in May 2021. 9 months later, it was closed because he retained access to classified information. By comparison, former ICIG McCullough filed UAP whistleblower Grush's ICIG complaint in May 2022. 26 months later, it remains open. Basically, what Merrick is saying is that there's a there. If Grush's complaint is still open, then they're still investigating it, and there's something there. They didn't close it yet, but they closed Elizondo's pretty quickly.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Elizondo was also, according to this letter, he was complaining that of reprisals and stuff. Here it is. Here's that letter to them. Him and his family were being threatened and blah, blah, blah. But then they closed it 2022. So what is that? When they send it? 3rd of May, 2021. Yeah. So they closed it within 11 months. But Grush's is still open.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think Grush was the closest we are going to get to like the real deal of someone really high up, someone with all the classification access he needs. He interviewed everyone meticulously. He went and tried to find the programs. They did not allow him to get to the programs. They retaliated against him. So then he filed a whistleblower complaint and then went in front of Congress. I mean, the guy is legit, in my opinion.
Yeah, but what's his name said he was lying.
Oh yeah, Kirkpatrick.
Yeah, Kirkpatrick said there's nothing weird going on, and I trust that guy. He clearly doesn't lie.
Oh, he's so truthful.
Yeah,
there's no reason to lie. And he was involved with UFO research in the past. I think we've covered this here. Yeah, I'm sure we have. Yeah. And they retired him to the Livermore Labs.
now he just goes on podcasts and talks about how truthful he is.
I mean, exactly. He had that position for a year or two, and he still talks about it.
Unbelievable. All right. UFO spotted in Ibiza. Tourists capture mysterious light.
Unfortunately, the video has been taken off Instagram.
Oh no, that's how you know it's real.
Yeah, because this thing went viral.
Yeah, it's always isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Anytime something real gets posted, it gets taken down real quick.
Isn't that nuts?
So let's read that little thing. The clip, which went viral on social media, shows a few tourists running towards a mysterious light in the sky. As the camera captures the light hovering near the moon, it suddenly zips through the sky in mere seconds, eliciting gasps from the onlookers. That picture at the very top of the article shows what was captured. So you can see it's not the moon.
No.
That's the thing. So people love to debunk things by saying, "Oh, that light in the sky is just
stars."
Yeah.
Too bad. I mean, I saw the video. It's really quick, but you see the thing take off. Of course.
Aliens trying to party with us.
Ibiza.
Ibiza.
So have you been there?
No. I couldn't even point on a map. Is it in Mexico, or is that a...
No, it's Spain. So it's an island.
Okay. Mediterranean was my second guess.
Yes. So yeah, it's in the Mediterranean. Very popular spot for party goers. Right? English party goers.
Sure.
Mostly Europeans, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm American. I like to party down by the...
We go to Mexico.
Go down to Tijuana.
And Gulf of Mexico.
Gulf of Mexico. I don't think I've ever been to Gulf of Mexico. I've been to Zihuatanejo, but that's not the Gulf of Mexico. I don't think.
Oh. Yeah, no, it's a huge destination. Did you see this one?
Yes,
cube?
I did. Just absolutely bizarre stuff.
So bizarre. What can this be?
I don't know. This is more footage about stuff that it makes no sense.
Yeah. So this is a white cube. I mean, volume. So I guess there it is.
And it's just, I mean, you can see the shadows on it. It's clearly got sides.
Yeah.
Is it a
Why
balloon?
isn't the guy saying anything?
I don't know.
Oh my. And it's big because it's far away.
Yeah. Seems like he's hiding behind his window.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's no. What the hell's. The only explanation for this is that it's a balloon, but that doesn't make any sense either because it's completely staying still.
Right. The wind's not moving it.
I don't like about these kind of videos is how did it start and how does it end?
Yeah.
I'm assuming it started like he saw this cube floating outside his window, and so I pulled the camera.
Right. I would do that.
But like, how does it end? Did it disappear? Did it fly away?
Yeah. Let's see. Does anyone say anything? Oh, it's a short. That doesn't help. Comments.
Of course.
Nope, wrong one. Wait. If I go to comments, it's swamp. All right.
It's swamp gas inside a cube. Yeah.
Dude on Reddit just posted an explanation. It's a flying cube from the circus in our town.
Okay.
Oh.
All right.
So why? Okay, again, why isn't the wind pushing it?
I don't know,
Let's
man.
check this out.
I don't know.
I don't know. Hey, I don't. Oh, there it is. 1 second. Share this tab.
So weird.
But
So
see, it's falling down. Can I see translation? Although we lost one flying prop. Yeah.
Okay. So it's part of something.
Yeah. If you want to see objects, including a spare cube flies, they should buy tickets to Hey Earth opening night is just a month away. Ha ha.
Listen up, all you listeners who are letting giant balloons fly out in the open. Please mark your giant balloons like spray paint on the side, not a UFO, so we know what's up.
Exactly. Not a UFO.
All right, let's move on to the next thing.
So I do want to bring this up. Now, there's a backstory to this. Okay, nothing against Elizondo or anything, but his book was leaked, right? It's coming out soon. I pre-ordered it. I even pre-ordered the Audible version of it. All right. I do respect this man. I do want to listen to what he has to say. Now, in there, he has something about torturing prisoners in Guantanamo. Okay, like he calls them terrorists. And so that leaked out, and people were like saying, why is he proud of torturing prisoners in Guantanamo? And he goes, because I'm a patriot. So Chupacabra put Lou Elizondo's a fucking loser. That's a bit hectic. But I put he thinks he's a patriot for torturing fake enemy combatants for a fake war on terror. And then I wanted to share with you this comment because I think there might be a lot of truth to this. And this guy says everything that comes out of Elizondo's mouth is either bullshit or complete exaggeration. He didn't torture anybody. It's just another one of his bullshit stories he came up with. What's sad is he thought making a story about torturing people would make him seem like a badass. This is what happens when you get an insecure little man with a whole lot of nothing in his life. Now, I think that's pretty harsh, don't you think?
Yeah, I do too. That's a really interesting way of minimalizing someone's work. You have to remember this guy worked for the government for an unfortunate long amount of time, but that's why he has all of the data that he has.
Right.
I mean, I'm not minimalizing. If he truly did torture people in Guantanamo, I mean, Yeah, that's so shitty.
He
But
said it. He said they did. Yeah. So people got really upset of him.
Yeah,
But
I
then he
mean-
called himself a patriot.
I mean, that's how a military person would describe them. That's how they
Yeah.
would describe themselves as a patriot.
I'm listening to my orders and I'm carrying them out.
Yeah. This is completely sidestepping here, but did you see the news about the guy who was the master behind 9/11?
Oh yeah, the plea deal, and then they took away the plea deal.
He admitted to he pled guilty or whatever. I don't know how.
Yeah, it was a plea deal. Yeah.
I don't know how things work in Guantanamo because there clearly is a different agenda there. He basically was tortured and kept in solitary confinement, which is also torture.
For years, yeah.
For 20 years.
Insane.
And then they're acting like it's this big victory that he finally pled guilty. And it's just like...
Well, did you hear that the Secretary of Defense rescinded that? So it's not going to happen.
So
The
what?
plea deal. So
So
no
they're,
plea deal.
so they're going to go back to torturing him?
I
and
think so, or back to
That's
prison.
so-
Yeah.
That's so
Yep.
stupid.
No, yeah, because
All of 9/11 is such a shitty...
Right.
None of it makes any goddamn sense.
Which is why, it brings another angle to Elizondo. Like, why is he perpetuating that
Yeah.
lie? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
By the way, we're at 2 hours and 10 minutes. I didn't know we have a few more things to get to. I mean, what do you think? Should we
Let's
skip some?
let's bust through it. Is it? Can you sum up this video or?
So this is a Bigfoot. It won't take that long, but that was filmed on a very big nature documentary. And then the filmmaker comes on and he says, "Yeah, we didn't have anyone there. It's not a bear. It's a pretty big documentary." But then they found a clip of this Bigfoot going through. Here, just quickly, let's do it.
I'm sure you've seen this clip. It's from a beautiful film called Great North, filmed back in 2001, way up in the Arctic. Breathtaking footage. Do yourself a favor, go check it out on Amazon or Hulu, among other places. But this one 30-second shot really captured the world's imagination. The thought of an actual film crew with a multi-million-dollar production accidentally filming a Bigfoot. And then what's even crazier, the guy who was behind the camera that day didn't know about all this until 15 years later when a buddy of his sent him a link to my video. So we started talking, and now, after 15 years of us all guessing and speculating.
Did you see there was like a baby on the back or something?
Yeah. I love Bigfoot footage. It's rare and it's hard to come by. Very interesting. I'm still on the fence about Bigfoot. If it goes into if this is kind of where I'm at in my life. If it slots into my beliefs, I like it. If it doesn't, I don't. But
did you ever watch the 411 videos, the missing 411?
yes, I think that is a huge topic that no one seems to be discussing. Missing 411 is fantastic. It's about hikers and hunters and other people who have gone missing in the woods.
Yeah.
And
the
people-
filmmaker of that, he thinks it's 40,000 Bigfoots, mostly in Alaska.
But these people essentially they step off the path like a foot, 2 feet, and they're just gone. They're just
gone.
disappear.
Yeah,
and
completely gone.
like the dogs can't find their scent. There's no trace of them. They've had trackers try and come out and find these people. They're just gone.
Yeah.
So
Gone.
they go, hey, this person walked up the path. They saw this person. They saw this person, and then they just disappeared off the face of the earth.
It is truly bizarre. All right, so let's just move on.
Yep.
I sent this to you. It's called the Kepler Magnetic Energy Converter 2023. So apparently this device can power up an entire, a small neighborhood using 0-point energy.
Magnets, how do they work?
Yeah, I mean,
really cool stuff. I mean, I'm loving this whole alternate energy paths that humankind seems to be figuring out slowly but surely.
Yeah, so this company, the legal structures SI, of course, Delaware company, but this stuff is coming out more and more. So it's like almost, we are in some kind of end phase here, because wouldn't these technologies in the past be confiscated and under the innovation, what is it called? The Secrecy Act, Patent Secrecy Act. I forget the name of it.
Yeah,
now.
or I mean, how many stories do we have of like
They get
Ford
killed.
GMC buying these small companies that come up with electric motors and they just shelve it or bury it. I mean,
yeah.
So it's cool to see that progress is still progressing.
Look at that. I mean, anyway, it's very impressive. So we're always going to keep an eye on that. I mean, if you need to go like off grid, wouldn't that be a great thing to have?
Oh, of course. I mean, they won't ever let you, but yeah.
No, especially if CBDCs come in and you're not part of that.
So this next article, scientists might have discovered how to make a tractor beam in real life. Might have means they haven't quite figured it out yet. But they have the theory of it.
Right.
But
or it's at a very small scale.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's still, once again, I mean, the realm of science fiction becoming science fact is really cool.
It is very cool.
Let's see. Scientists may have discovered how to create a real-life tractor beam using electromagnetic radiation that can draw particles toward it. The result is something very akin to a tractor beam seen in science fiction media like Star Wars. Further, the scientists say they may have found a way to make it more portable. Oh, God. That's a horrible...
More portable. Here, let's take you out of your house.
Yeah.
Let's abduct you.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the military applications and how terrifying that would be, because they will find a way to weaponize it against us.
Of course. Oh, yeah. And for sure they have an agreement.
Yeah, see, a tractor beam could make extracting certain things from the body much easier, like your blood or your bones.
Oh, the blood. Remember Project Saucer, what we just covered last week.
Yep.
They felt like their blood was being taken.
Yep.
What the fuck? So
anyway,
that's because
cool.
of real life tractor beam. Yeah, very cool.
Very cool. Also terrifying. Now this, I think we should do a full episode on this at some point.
All right.
Because this is something that I would say relatively, like the last 10 years only became aware of. The Black Eye Club.
Even the Pope.
The Black Eye Club, not the Black Guy Club.
Yes,
basically,
Black Eye Club.
All of these very rich, usually famous, always old, they always show up with a black eye, and it is always the left eye for some reason. And obviously, various conspiracy forums online seem to think it is where they inject the adrenochrome, or it's some sort of fight club where you have to get punched in the face by whoever's running things.
Especially maybe if you're in trouble, financial trouble, or you need some connections for something else. It could be some kind of initiation or a shaming thing.
It is really very interesting.
Mysterious.
Very mysterious. Because like you said, the Pope has had it. I think every president has had it. And
except for Trump.
Yeah.
He's always the anomaly.
But what's so weird to me is when you bring this up online, especially on places like Reddit, they go like, oh, old people get bruises on their eyes all the time. And I'm in a part of my life where I know various old people, and I don't recall ever seeing any of them with a black eye.
Ever. So no, that's not a valid one.
But that is literally the main argument against, whatever this club
because they're old and they get bruises. Oh, please.
Yep, that is the main skeptic viewpoint on this. Very confused. Also, Sharon Stone hasn't been relevant for like 20 years.
That's the thing. Yeah. So something's going on where they need to she wants to be brought back into the limelight. Before this, she just came out. There was something. or maybe after this. Did this recently happen? 2 days ago.
She's in Sphere, I think. I think that's her. I love that movie.
Oh yeah, she's in that. What was the movie that made her really famous?
Something. It's the one where she does the upskirt shot.
Yeah.
In the police
man,
station.
I forget the name.
I have never seen it, but I know the scene because everyone knows the scene.
But yeah, that definitely is something we should look into more in detail. Yeah, we could do a whole episode on this on who has had those.
I would love to. There are so many freaking people who have had a black eye. It's bizarre.
So many, yeah.
I've never. Wait, that's not true. I was gonna say I could have sworn I've had black eyes. Like maybe as a kid. Most recently, a couple years ago, when
sports?
I don't think I ever got a black eye from sports. Maybe I'm trying to think. The most recent,
I got punched maybe in. Was it
a few years ago, I had a seizure and cut my head open.
Oh
as you know, and
yeah,
like after it got sewed up and everything, I had a black eye, but it wasn't like dark. I didn't have like that dramatic black circle. It's just my eye got a little puffy and it kind of got yellow under my eye. But unless you like really looked at me, you wouldn't have even known it was there.
All right, but I mean, it's definitely something that's happening. We don't know why, but it looks like it's some club, some kind of initiation that's going on. Speaking of initiation, so here's a different perspective of what's happening in Venezuela and why Elon Musk, is against Maduro. And so here's Alan MacLeod on X.
McLeod, I think.
McLeod. For those unsure over which side to support in Venezuela, this might be informative. As President Maduro cast his ballot yesterday, he shouted, quote, "Long live free Palestine." Maria Corina Machado, leader of the opposition, said that, quote, "Our struggle is Israel's struggle." The Venezuelan opposition has deep connections with Israel. In 2020, it signed a cooperation deal with Netanyahu's Likud party. Machado also sent a letter to Netanyahu publicly asking for Israeli military intervention in Venezuela. My Mint Press News report.
It's
all
interesting.
the same people.
I saw a post on Reddit that actually it made me chuckle and then it made me really sad. But like, when was the last time we had a president that didn't outwardly and loudly support Israel?
JFK probably.
Oh yeah, what happened to that guy?
I don't know. Had his head blown off.
Oh no, mind blown.
On that note, here's Greg Reese. Although it's 5 minutes, this is such a good video. It really is.
So go ahead, you viewers at home, go ahead and watch this in full. It's worth it.
Yeah, it definitely is worth it. He's calling it the evangelical Zionists pushing the world into Armageddon. Which we're seeing that going on now, with Netanyahu coming over here and demanding.
Oh my God, that was
demanding.
Insufferable.
I know, and just
insufferable.
Give me all your money, give me all your weapons.
He couldn't talk 2 minutes without the fucking people applauding for him.
It was so
Jesus
disgusting.
Christ.
So embarrassing. So embarrassing.
We're
paid for.
We're cucked. We're completely cucked.
Yeah, so bought and paid for. It was really embarrassing. The whole world just got, and they're applauding. And he just lie after lie. He said there were no civilian deaths, practically none. He said they got up and clapped for him.
Christ. I mean, hello. People want to know why. You know what? Never mind. I already said too much last episode to get us canceled. I'm not going to say more.
No, man, you're all good. Hey, if they cancel us off a platform, who cares? We have other ones.
We'll go on.
You sent me this though.
Yeah. So here we go.
Yeah.
Calls for foreigners to leave Lebanon as war fears grow.
There we go. They want a regional war.
Yeah, things are. I know we say this every week. It feels like, but things are ramping up in the Middle East because, of course, they are.
Of course, they are.
There are how many countries on one side, and there's one that's backed by essentially the entire world on the other.
Right. I mean, British Empire. Well, the Brits, the Americans and most of the West support Israel, right, with arms and money. And
It's so stupid too, because I'd say close to 90% of the regular population understands how in the wrong Israel is, and yet our government acts like we're all supporting Israel, and I just don't understand it. I mean, I do, because of how money and banks and influence and
right.
having sex with children on camera works.
Exactly. And it is a mix of that. It's the donor class, right, funding their campaigns, and then like you said, they're caught doing stuff and they get blackmailed.
Yeah, and what's the? You might have told me this story where like the Palestinian people who want to come and talk to Congress, they get one day where they come in, they're like, this is horrible, this is everything that's going on, and it's terrible and it sucks and we need your help, and they leave thinking they've done a good job, and then 364 other days out of the year, Israel is
Israel
saying, oh, poor us.
Yeah, I mean, Massey said it. They all have an AIPAC guy.
Yeah.
They call them all the time, every day, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, and I know I've said this on the show before, but I'm going to say it again. Like, if you want to know who rules you, look at who you can't talk negatively about. Look at who you can't say bad things about. That's who rules you.
Yeah. If you can't criticize someone and there are laws that you can't criticize them, that's who rules.
That's who's in charge. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And it doesn't help them. I wonder if they do it on purpose. Like we know what's happening. Moving over.
They've got so much power. It doesn't matter to them.
No, it doesn't. They're not scared anymore.
Nope. Anyway, let's move on to this.
Yeah. So just some updates on the assassination attempt, Trump's assassination attempt. So the assassination attempt at the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th, 2024. FirstNet was responsible for the issues with radio communications and cell service outages that day. Guess who is on the board? Merrick Garland, Alejandro Mayorkas.
Whoops.
I've been warning about this since 2021. Pay close attention to FirstNet. FirstNet will assure whatever the shadow government and deep state determined to be misinformation or disinformation is unable to propagate the internet, blocking users via their ISP, even at their router, China, as necessary, via IP and even MAC addresses. Guess who's on their board?
Yeah, weird. Funny how that works.
Yeah. So there's more deep state links.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays everyone, makes jokes about people who support Trump and the deep state and yada yada yada. But I mean, that didn't come out of nowhere. Like, it was all true.
Yeah. And it still is true.
Yeah.
And who knows? They're probably going to try again.
Oh yeah, of course they will.
I don't put it past them not to.
So what did Snowden say there?
Oh, let me go back. I think he was talking about, when was this? April 15th? April 15th. So it was a while ago. 4 months ago. The NSA is just days. Oh, I think we covered this from taking over the internet. Yeah. Yeah, this new law.
Great. We need more. I need more fat government officials sitting outside my window staring at what I do on the internet.
More NSA surveillance to protect us that doesn't really protect us, or that to protect us to allow things to happen to do what they want.
They protect us so well that the Republican nominee for president was shot at without anyone doing anything about it.
This is a crazy thing now that's coming out, that apparently he was not shot. Sorry for that.
Oh my God. It drives me nuts. They have the bullet on camera and they're saying, oh, it's shrapnel. And they're acting like, oh, he just got hit with shrapnel. He was someone tried to assassinate the Republican nominee for president, and they're trying to downplay it like it was nothing.
Yeah. They're trying to memory hole it.
It's just glass hitting his face. Oh, it's just parts of the bullet hitting his face. Oh my God, I cannot stand these people.
So listen to this. So if he had been shot by a counter sniper, if Crooks had been shot by a counter sniper firing from the direction of President Trump, then the the top half of his head would be missing. The photo of Crooks was taken after rolling him over onto his left side. He was shot in the back of the head, and the bullet appears to have exited his mouth. He was shot with a low-caliber weapon, possibly a .223 or 5.56.
5.56 is not a small round, I don't think. That's like what an AK-47 uses, I believe.
But it's not like being shot by one of these sniper with the
Yeah,
sniper's
no,
head.
yeah, no.
So they're not telling us who shot him, but from
They're
the
not
evidence,
they're not fucking telling us anything because
Nothing.
I mean we talked about it last week. I mean how sketchy this whole investigation has been about, you know, the assassination attempt.
yeah, and here's some comedy about it.
Yeah, I sent you this. Basically, it's the assassin holding a big sign, "I'm going to shoot Trump." You know, and I read the article. You know, people were pointing up at the sign saying he was going to shoot Trump because that's essentially what happened. I mean, people in the crowd were pointing at this fucking
Everyone.
idiot.
When you watch those videos, they're screaming, "He's got a gun! He's on the roof!"
Yeah, and he's obviously not Secret Service. Like that's how obvious it was, and no one did anything about it until shots were fired, and then. Yeah, no, I've gone deep down the conspiracy, hole on this. I mean, that is retardy Oswald.
So funny.
And then of course Biden drops from
2 days later.
2 days later because the assassination attempt failed. I mean,
Right. Yes.
It's so transparent to most people. It's sickening. It's hard to. It's hard to live in this world when you start seeing things for what they are and not when you stop being spoon-fed information, you start being like, you know, what's going on here? What is this? Let me look into this a little bit more. And you start seeing what's going on. You realize the whole system, the whole country, the whole government, everyone around you, it's all bogus. And it's a very isolating, it's an isolating way to live, but it's necessary.
Yeah, you know, on that note, here's a great video about the whole Kamala being black or Indian.
Yeah.
That whole controversy is pretty funny.
Can't stand her laugh.
Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition
the words
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question, a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me if you
I
would.
just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a Black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black, and now she wants to be known as Black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she Black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a Black woman.
I
She went to a
respect
historically
either
Black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a Black person.
Just to be clear,
it's just a bunch of lies.
Oh, really?
So what we're going to cook today is an Indian recipe.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you are
Yes.
Indian.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh
and I
my
don't know that
God.
everybody knows that.
My God.
Because
Yes.
you are
Indian.
Yes.
Can y'all at least be willing to admit how hard that is to watch?
And certainly you could become the first Indian senator in U.S. history, which would be quite an accomplishment.
Knock wood.
In Knockwood. Well, there you go.
I don't know. I don't give a fuck about what.
Oh, who cares?
What her
Yeah.
her race is. I don't like that in the world of politics today that someone can make a living based on their race, ethnicity, gender. When Biden was the Democratic nominee way back in whatever it was, 2019, he said, I'm going to not hire. He goes, I want to have a black woman as vice president.
He literally
And
said that.
he did. I mean, it wasn't something that the the Republicans made up. He said that out loud in public to people.
Right.
And who was the only black woman who was, in that political arena? Kamala was.
Yeah.
But I think it's really insulting. I'm not a black person, but I think it's really insulting to people when you say, hey, this hire has to be a
of course, yeah. I know
they have to
it has to be a DEI hire.
It has to be a woman. It has to be someone who's trans. It has to be. I am of the belief that the best person for the job, no matter what their religion is, what their race is, what their gender
by your
is,
merits.
I think people should be judged on their merits.
Yeah.
And I've seen many people who are black, who are female, who are whatever, it doesn't matter, get hired not because of their gender or their race, because of their merits, because they're really good at what they do. And
that's how it should be.
That's how it should be, in my opinion. But again,
no, and that is an American opinion. We're not. The whole DEI thing is very commie, and it's communist and socialist. And it's a psyop. It doesn't help anyone out except those in charge.
I mean, I'm someone who is, I don't know, mixed race sounds weird. I'm part white. I don't even know, honestly, I don't even know how to define myself, but I've never looked at myself as like, oh, I'm so-and-so, I'm this race. I mean, I know I'm male, I'm not questioning that, but I've never I'm never defining myself based on what's in my blood. I just go, hey, especially when I'm applying for a job, I go, these are all the things I've accomplished. These are my strong points. I never, ever would consider saying, bringing my race into what I'm trying to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Totally, man. I'd never use that. And it's embarrassing to do that because it shouldn't be something. Because
it has
we're all humans.
It has no relevance on my job.
It doesn't, and it shouldn't. It really shouldn't.
If I was looking to be a mechanic, I wouldn't, put some race in there being like, this race is better at being mechanic. So
I'm an Armenian, so I must be a better mechanic.
Are Armenians good?
Apparently, yeah.
No,
but it could be something that they just gravitate to. Like you can't say Chinese people because they have restaurants that they're better chefs. It's just an easier way. It's an easier path. People just go down paths because they're easy, or easier.
Yeah, I just don't get the conversation about race and gender and how it applies to life today. I mean,
because we weren't brought up that way. I mean, it's stupid. It really is.
I just want to say, on the other hand, I do understand that, black men are treated unfairly by police. I can recognize that and I can see that, but back on the other side, as long as you are nice and polite to respectful to who's arresting you, I don't think it becomes an issue. I mean, again, I'm perceived as a white man. Fine, whatever. And this is bringing way too much of my personal life into this podcast, but I'll say it anyway. When I was arrested for my DUI, I straight up told the cop, hey, I'm hammered. He goes, we're gonna do a field sobriety test. I go, you don't have to do that. I'll skip to the breathalyzer. I'm drunk, officer. And I didn't resist. I didn't do anything. And it was a very, obviously it was stressful, but it was a nice process. I didn't fight back. I wasn't rude. I just said you got me. I'm not trying to hide anything. I don't, I'm not trying to kill you. I'm just arrest me and do what you have to do. That. This is it. I get it.
Yeah. I have the same experience with the cops. As long as you're respectful and you respect them, then they will respect you back.
Yeah. I don't know how we got to this part, but let's go for it.
Well, here's the last clip. It's of Kamala very recently, and it's terrifying.
This is just an extraordinary testament to the importance of having a president who understands the power of diplomacy and understands the strength that rests in understanding the significance of diplomacy and strengthening alliances. This is an incredible day. This is just extraordinary.
Oh my
testament.
God! Please,
Talk
God,
in
please don't make
circles
her
more.
president. Please, God, no.
Talk in circles more. That literally could be applied to anything.
Complete word salad.
So I'm sitting here at my laptop, and what this laptop represents is the podcasting world and how it applies to laptops. And I sit here with my laptop here, it's in my hand with my microphone, and I can speak into the microphone, and that's what podcasting is all about.
And it's a beautiful thing.
I can podcast into this microphone, which goes into the laptop, and it is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's how she speaks. She talks that way about everything. She just repeats it over and over and has no clue, no idea, no depth. And, you know, for those who talk about democracy, I mean, let's just say something. Not one Democrat voter voted for her. Not one. She was not in the primary.
She didn't even win her own state. I mean,
no.
She's wildly unpopular, and like I understand the Democrats kind of are stuck with her at this point, but trying to make her look like a presentable presidential candidate is insane, in my opinion.
So insane. Do you think they'll replace her?
No,
Or they're stuck?
No. They're stuck with her because the only way as far as I understand, the way she can get money for her presidential run is if she's on the ticket as, you know, president or vice president. And I mean, just what kind of a sick clown show are we stuck with here? We got Trump on one side, who's just going to run his mouth and be an insane person. And then we've got Mushmouth Kamala on the other side, who is also insane and going to run like a crazy person. I just don't. I mean, Biden is not even after that clip you showed.
Yeah.
After that clip you showed, he got on the wrong plane. Did you see?
Oh
that?
yeah, that's right. And everyone is laughing.
And everyone's saying, "Oh no, he just went on the plane to shake hands with the pilots or some bullshit."
Sure, he did.
Yeah, I mean, he's lost. It's
embarrassing.
I mean, this is Hillary versus Clinton 2016 back with a vengeance. I don't even know. I mean, it's laughable at this point. And you know, it should go to show. It should show that our country is not run by the president. Clearly.
No, it hasn't been for a long time. I mean, I guess, you know, Trump's a little different, even though when he came in, they still wouldn't allow him because he wanted to pull out of Syria many times, and they'll say, "Oh, no, don't listen to him." You know, they'll tell the media. So he wasn't in control of the military either, even though he ordered them to leave Syria. And they'll stop him from. I mean, it was
No, I mean, this sounds bad, but I fully expect Kamala to win this election. It's in the script, because our government knows they can't do 4 more years of Trump.
Yeah, they'll do anything not to have it. They tried to fucking kill him.
Yeah,
on live television.
And
I mean, CNN never goes to his rallies, but went to that one.
Yeah, it's so transparent.
Yeah,
but you know what else is transparent?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was hoping to respond there. This is the end of the podcast, episode 83.
Oh yes, we're only almost at 3 hours there, cuz.
Yeah, this has been a good one. I, as you can tell, really love the Phoenix Lights phenomenon. I think that's a really fun UFO case that occurred in somewhat recent times. I hope we get more things like that.
Yeah, that would definitely be cool.
I hope more like that and less like Independence Day.
Yeah, definitely. And next week we're gonna focus on another one. We'll definitely think about it, or maybe we could do. What was the other one? Connecticut,
New York,
New York,
Hudson Valley.
Hudson Valley. You want to do that one next week? We can do that next week.
Why does it? That doesn't sound. And anyway, I mean, Truthfully, yeah, it is Hudson Valley sightings. It's very similar to the Phoenix Lights. We could do that if you want. Yeah.
All right.
But in the meantime, I want you to tell all of our dear listeners out there where they can find us on social media.
Dear listeners, you can find us on X. That is the only platform we are on social media. One, because we don't have to worry about being canceled, because we do talk about very sensitive topics on this. So head on over to X, formerly Twitter, and our handle is UAP the podcast. I am at Breakaway Civil, and Topher1 is at Topher et al. Then you find us on all major podcasting platforms. Just search for Uncovering Anomalies Podcast. And we are also on all major video platforms. You can find us on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey. Other than that, support us. Whatever you guys, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to chip us or tip us, we have a support link under every single episode. So that would be cool. Other than that, I think that's everything.
Perfect. And listen, if you want to download our videos, torrent them, whatever, and put it on Pornhub, I am not going to complain. I won't complain. You can do that if you want.
Hey, we might get some really unique viewers over there.
Very unique.
While they're taking a break from something else, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, you just need a break. You're looking at I don't know any names that are relevant to this conversation, and then you go, "Hey, I want to listen to a conspiracy podcast." You just pop on over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all goes
So,
together.
like I said, that is I have a need to know Adam, and I am Topher1. And hey, Adam, did you know if you mix cat litter and gasoline, you get napalm?
Are you serious?
Anyway, this has been the Uncovering Anomalies podcast. This has been episode 83. And in case you didn't know, it is August 4th. This year has flown by.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you so much for listening. Tell a friend. Don't make any napalm. And we'll see you next week.
All right, next week. Share the show with everyone.
Please tell a friend.